The young man turns to Ophelia and also claims that much has changed and it is time to answer for his sins. The main character just looks down on him, and the other guy claims that the girl poisoned Sitara and also tried to harm Sirityu too. And at the same time, he doesn't even try to hide what the Emperor's last will was. The guy then asserts that Ophelia Dane Raidanius will be severely punished as the law of the Empire demands. Then the young man asks what the sinner will say in the end, and the girl claims that she will destroy this world to ruins. After which the man says that the girl should be put into eternal sleep, and she understands that the fate of the world, which had no pity for her, does not interest her. A little while later, the girl wakes up in her bed, breathing heavily, and realizes that she is alive. She also realizes that the pain of the bullets that pierced her is still felt. At this time, one of the maids turns to Milady and asks if she has a cough, but she brought her tea. However, after this, the main character only throws a pillow at her and the maid apologizes. And she also says that she didn't know that Milady didn't want to see anyone and would leave right now. The main character understands that she has returned to the past and is alive again because she has already fallen into eternal sleep 4 times. So the girl wonders how long this will go on. Ophelia is a transmigrant, and in the adult novel The Return of the Crown Prince, she got the role of Ophelia, who is his final boss. According to the plot, the Villainess locked Prince Eudes in a tower and plunged his mother into eternal sleep. The main character at the end of the story will overcome the difficulties and defeat his half-sister Ophelia, and also become an emperor. And also, of course, the Villainess is obliged to plunge into eternal sleep in a terrible way. But the young lady thinks that nothing, because she will replay everything. Initially, her plan was to change the fate of Ophelia, and in her first life, she dreamed of a world where there was only room for beauty, and also treated her half-brother, who was locked in a tower, kindly. And after the transfer of the right to the throne, she spent the rest of her life in marriage with Kirsten Erhard. He was the next owner of the magic tower, and an extremely attractive man. However, the girl did not expect that such a weak character as it seemed to her was capable of terrible deeds, and the young man then claimed that Ophelia should one day become empress, and he had already prepared everything. The main character then thought about what this guy was talking about, and she had given up the throne to Yutu, and it no longer concerned hers. And also, her life was beautiful and righteous, so the girl wondered why everything suddenly turned upside down. A little while later, the young lady was executed, and she thought that this was the end. But at the very moment when she breathed her last, she was reborn. The girl then wondered what had happened, and whether she had really fallen into an eternal sleep from the guillotine, after which the young lady also looked at her face and realized that it was like this 10 years before the execution, and also wondered if she had really traveled to the past. The girl also understood that she wanted to create a happy ending, and wondered why her life was destroyed. But she didn't even expect that a minor character would betray her. The maid then turned to the mistress and asked if she really had a cough. Ophelia, I understood that maybe she returned to the past because she didn't follow the plot, and if everything continued like this, she would have to experience the tragic ending again. Said again that she brought tea to the lady, and the girl just turned to her and understood that if she wanted to stop the reincarnations, that we should follow the original story, and the main character only turned over the maid's tray and asked if she really had to drink it. The maid then asked for forgiveness and claimed that she would leave right now, but the main character understood that even having become cruel, she was reborn again, and then again, and the nastiness of her character does not affect anything, because this is already the 5th life. Everything continues to repeat itself over and over again, and no matter how much she suffered at the end of each life, youth will still hold her tortured body. Now, the young lady also claims that if she is destined to be reborn, then from that moment on, she will strive for a painless departure from life. The girl also thinks that she has had enough of diving into eternal sleep, shooting at those piercing her body, and wants to calmly let out his last breath. But Eudes said that she was greedy, after which the young lady thinks that it is good, and there is no use in crying because she needs to do what she must. And before plunging into eternal sleep, she will hand over the throne to Eudes, after which she will calmly breathe her last breath. The girl also understands that this will be a peaceful and calm end to her life, and this is what she needs. Therefore, she has nothing more to worry about. But the girl still thinks about how to arrange all this. She also remembers how the young man insisted that he would use all his influence to make her descent into eternal sleep as painful as possible. And now the young lady just shakes, after which she understands that this will not happen. And since she is being reborn, I would like to go back to the moment when Sitara was still alive, and she was a servant from a small village in the north. She was also the mother of the prince and the person chosen by the emperor. The main character became a transmigrant after Ophelia put Sitara into eternal sleep, and she would like to return to that moment and also prevent it, or even to the very beginning, like in coming-of-age novels. And if the prince's mother were alive, the girl is sure that he would hate her. Now the main character just sighs, and the maids seeing this get scared and then immediately fall to the floor. And they ask if Her Highness didn't like the dinner, and ask to spare them, but the main character wonders what they are talking about. The girl also wonders why her sigh frightens them so much, and whether asking for a peaceful death is really a luxury. And for someone who lives the life of a villain, well, in any case, you need to find a way to arrange everything. A little while later, someone turns to Milady and asks if it is possible to inquire where she is going. The girl then ignores the maid and moves on, after which she once again addresses the princess. Well, yes, he just turns to the maid and asks how long that child has been locked up. Emmy replies that today is exactly a year, and the main character claims that this is true. After all, Ophelia kept him there for a whole year, after which the girl realizes that she came up with a plan. And the only way to arrange for her to peacefully enter into eternal sleep is to force Eutis. Let her do it calmly, and the guy cannot fall into eternal sleep, since he is the main character, and this is his privilege, because if she could end his life, Tony would have to try so hard. The young lady also understands that the guy is locked in a prison that only looks luxurious from the outside. But even in such conditions, he never caught a cold. And in other words, if he can't be put into eternal sleep, then it's better to torture him. But the girl thinks whether this guarantees her a peaceful end to life. But then she can still with her head and understands that there are enough doubts, and also she will cope and must fight. At this time, she hears someone whispering that the princess is behaving, and whether the red liquid will spill in the palace. After which the young lady thinks that what a life for a villain at this time. Someone enters the boy's room. This guy is the only son of the emperor and Ophelia's half-brother. The maid then turns to him, and the boy only tells Shayna not to worry because he was just lost in thought looking out the window. After which he also asks if it wouldn't be great to get out of there and take a walk with her on such a sunny day. The woman then thinks how the boy can remain so gentle, after which she immediately screams at him that the guy shouldn't forget who locked him there. Hey, let him always remember that his mother went into eternal sleep for nothing. This happened because of the mean Ophelia. The boy then tells Shayna that she can be heard and that she should not speak like that about the princess. And the main character at this time is standing near the door and thinking how she came at the wrong time. Then she also turns to the maids and tells them to stay there and not to make her repeat it. Shauna at this time asks Eutis to be patient while he is alive, and the emperor will save him. The main character then enters the room and asks if this old man is serious about saving the boy. But it will be hard for him because he is weak and far from young. The woman then says that this is Princess Ophelia, after which the girl turns to the boy and greets him. However, at that very moment, the maid jumps up in front of the young man, and he asks why the princess came there and why she promised not to touch Sir Utah. The main character then asks what the woman is afraid of, or whether she is asking to be put into eternal sleep. The main character then realizes that she shouldn't have spoken like that because she lived Ophelia's life for a very long time and is used to speaking like a villain. At this time, the young man turns to his maid and tells her to beg the princess for forgiveness, because if something happens to her, then he will. The main character at this time understands that Eutis loved her very much in her first life. While having become emperor, he sentenced her to execution, and if you think about it, then that love could have been fake. So now the young lady claims that it is a trifle, and they will forget, and also turns to the boy, after which he asks if he would like to leave there. The maids at this time lean against the door and try to eavesdrop. Then one of them asks what the princess just said, and whether she really asked if the boy wanted to get out of there. After this, the young man only looks at the main character in surprise, and then turns to Her Highness, and asks if she really came to take his life. Ophelia understands that she had to make such an expression on her face, but Tane actually wants from Togo, and asks why the young man thinks so. The boy then replies that it is because he knows that she would not let him go without reason. And if he does let you go, he will send you somewhere like a battlefield. And that is not much different from execution. Ophelia understands that although he trembles with fear in front of her, he is filled with the desire to live. At this time, the maid turns to the princess and cries out that Sir Euthias is gone, after which she asks why this is so suddenly, and how they can believe her. However, the main character only smiles after this, which frightens the young man a little. Ophelia then asks Utah, is he really expecting the emperor to save him? Then the girl gets up and says that it looks like he didn't get the message, and the emperor, that is their great father, has become mentally weakened, and any day now, he will no longer be capable of anything. And since he is going to lose his life, he will soon be reunited with Sitara, and now she is the only one who can get him out of there. The boy then asks in shock if this really happened to His Majesty the Emperor, and one of the maids claims that she thought it was somehow strange that the girl was asking if Sir Euthi wanted to go out, and she wasn't sure whether she should come. So now the maid asks why she should scare the boy even more and what she had planned. The main character at this time pokes him in the forehead and claims that she has said enough. So now let the young man think for himself what situation he found himself in, and who is his lifeline. The boy at this time only looks menacingly at the young lady, and she understands that this is it. In the face of Utah, there is determination and strength, and it is also the face of a man full of hatred, which brought her to the guillotine, and after many reincarnations, she thought for a long time about what had destroyed her first life. But it wasn't just her husband who was to blame, but Ophelia herself had done something terrible. One day, she called Sitara into her room, after which she claimed that she thought the woman knew that the emperor had no feelings for her. The brunette then only asked Princess Ophelia for mercy. However, the girl only claimed that she would be the one to send, so she has to eliminate everyone who stands in her way. The woman then begged the princess and claimed that if it was possible, claim anything and her life will be in her hands, so she asks to spare Yute. The main character then put down the knife and turned to Sitara, and also asserted that one must answer for one's words. But a little while later, someone turned to my lady and cried out that something bad had happened. After all, Mrs. Sitara poisoned herself and fell into eternal sleep. The main character was in her room at that time. While the maids were looking after her, she also talked about what a sad ending it was. In her first life, the girl told the guy that they needed to be friends, but he seemed to think it was a joke. Now, the main character quickly opens the door, and the maid immediately runs away. Ophelia claims that she doubts that the boy will believe her, even if she swears not to touch him. Therefore, the choice remains his, and either he will gather courage and leave there, or let him stay there and be afraid further. After which, the young lady asked what kind of life he would prefer, and then turned to her maids and said that they were leaving. One of them then thought about what a poor boy he was, because he was so intimidated that she was afraid he would live in the shadows for the rest of his days. Well then, the main character feels something, and when she turns around, she sees that it is that same young man. And he holds on to her dress, and then claims that he wants to go out, and also wants to live outside. And he doesn't know what the lady has in mind, but he doesn't want to stay in prison. The young lady understands that the guy behaves like the main character, and he overcame his fear, but the maid then screams that it is dangerous, and the young man replies that being locked up there does not mean being safe, and it doesn't matter that it's dangerous, because he chooses freedom, after which tears begin to flow from his eyes. Well, when the young man notices this, he immediately wipes them away. The main character understands that it seems that the boy is not so tense now, although he is crying. He also claims that he has a sharp mind and high self-esteem, but he really does look like a small and dirty kitten. Ute, hearing this, immediately turns around, and in shock asks what she said. The young lady thinks that he doesn't believe her, and she thinks that such a relationship suits them. The maid watches all this in shock. The main character at this time turns to Emmy and tells her to bathe this dirty boy and bring him back to human form. But the young man only asks why they say that he is dirty. At this time, one man gets ready and then leaves the room. The butler asks if the gentleman is leaving, and also bows and asks him to be careful. A little while later, the maid is already washing the boy, and one of them says that she will add hot water. The other one then claims that she will add lavender, and now they can add water with lemon and herb infusion, and perfume in turn, because there are only 42 bottles there. They also handed the boy an outfit and claimed that it was simple. The young man then wondered if this was really a simple outfit, but the maid claimed that she had chosen it based on the master's wishes. At this time, another maid approaches him and claims that she has brought clothes. But when he sees how the maids hand him new clothes, he asks what they are doing because this is already too much. After which, he takes a comb and begins to comb his hair, while the maid looks at him. He claims that Sir Yute is simply shining. The young man thinks that now he is clean enough, and the girl will no longer call him dirty. A little while later, they come to the garden, and the guy thinks that it is amazing, but he didn't know that such beautiful places exist. And until the princess found him, she was able to properly prepare for immersion into eternal sleep. He also turns to Shayna and tells her to look at what a beautiful greenhouse there is. However, the woman only tells the Sir that Princess Ophelia is dangerous and that he should not let his guard down. At this time, the main character turns to the boy and invites him to go have breakfast. At this time, the maid accidentally spills a little tea on the mistress's dress, after which she apologizes for it. But Ophelia says that it's nothing. The boy at this time understands that Shayna is partly right, and although it is stupid to be afraid of everything, he also needs to relax. Well, he still can't know when the princess will change her mind. The main character just sighs at this time. And he understands that now that this stubborn man is free, it would be nice to take a break. After which the boy sits down opposite her, and the main game does not understand that this is very awkward. Again, she eats opposite Utah, and also thinks that she just wants to avoid catching it from him at once, but she can't tell him that. After which the girl claims that from then on, if nothing changes, they will have breakfast together, and he will learn a lot of what a prince should know, after which the young man in shock asks if she really said that he will learn what a prince should learn. The maid then asks if the girl really called him a prince, and if the world is about to turn upside down. The main character claims that history, economics, humanities, mathematics, and etiquette are what he needs to learn. After which the young lady understands that in addition it is necessary for him to study imperialism, but this is still a long way off. Ophelia also claims that he still needs to take up fencing, and the boy is in shock at this time. And he wonders if the girl is really going to put him into eternal sleep in this way. Well then, he is a little surprised because he sees the young lady smiling. The girl stings that now he looks like an aristocrat, and she also suggests that he start eating. At this time, the boy is thinking about what this girl has planned and claims that he does not yet know how to use the devices correctly. And when he tries to eat, he loudly bangs them together, and the main character claims that he shouldn't blame himself for what he hasn't learned. And the young man then thinks, is she really saying that he hasn't learned? And he understands that it's because of her. Ophelia claims that he will live in the Rose Palace where Sitara used to live, and he will also have maids. After which the girl asks how much he needs, but the boy replies that Shana is enough for him. But the main character claims that it will be difficult for her to manage a large palace alone. Then another maid also approaches the young lady, or asks for forgiveness, but asserts that Lord Erhard is there. The boy is trying to eat with cutlery at this time and is wondering how he can eat with it without knocking. But at that very moment, he hears some loud knock and gets scared, after which he looks at the main characters, who looks very bad and even dropped her cutlery. Ophelia then tells the maid to tell him to leave for something and agrees. The young man is then in shock thinking what happened and that she dropped the equipment, and the main character understands that Kristen Kalman Erhard is the man who married her in her first life. But the girl also thinks why he appeared now. And he is a secondary character, but when she met him, it seemed to her that they were made for each other. After which the young lady thinks that if it weren't for the betrayal that he planned behind her back, and in this life she must avoid him, the young lady is pulled out of her thoughts by a boy. And when the main character looks at him, he only tells Her Highness to take his instruments. After all, he hadn't used them yet, and her instruments fell. Then the young man returns to his place, and also thinks, why did he do it? But this girl turned so pale. After which, the boy also claims that he can eat with his hands. But then he realizes what he just said, and claims that it was indecent. At this time, Ophelia realizes that she was confused after hearing only Kristen's name. At this time, someone turns to Her Highness and only continues to think about her ex-husband. The brunette at this time asks who is Lord Erhard, whom the maid mentioned. The main character then thinks why the Lord came to her. At this time, the maid informs Kristen that the lady is ill and cannot see him. The man then asks if she is ill and states that he will leave then. But he still asks that maybe he did something wrong and she doesn't want to see him. At this time, the boy tells the main character that he didn't want to eavesdrop, but she turned so pale, and she looked surprised, so the young man asks if he is a bad person and thinks that maybe he drove the girl around. The main character claims that he is not bad, but rather great, and he is a magician. The boy then asks if this man is a magician, to which the girl replies that yes, and he is also a very special person. And the current owner of the magic tower disappeared, and the Lord was appointed as the next one. The girl understands that even thinking about everything now, she does not understand whether he committed betrayal out of a thirst for power, after which she claims that magicians don't care about wealth, and they have plenty of free goods, but that's not what makes Kristen great, and his unlimited magical power. In their lifetime, when magic and witchcraft disappear, there is only one person with such great power, knowing no boundaries, and this is Lord Kristen Kalman Earhart. Well, the young lady also understands that she needs to calm down and not worry. She also asks if the boy wants more, and also understands that now she needs to pretend that there is no problem. At this time, Eudice replies that no, and he had enough. And the girl thinks that Eudice suddenly remembers that Kristen came, and if the magician does something, then Eudice might mistakenly think that she is also involved in it. After which, the young lady understands that the situation is dangerous and she cannot allow him to remember this incident. At this time, the boy wonders why such a great magician came to her, and the main character gets a little nervous, and also screams that he doesn't mean that she's not good enough for this, and he just read about magicians in books on the history of the empire. The main character then asks what kind of history books about young men these are, and at that moment realizes that it was supposed to be a secret. The maid also closes her eyes, and the main character realizes that she never allowed the boy to read books in prison. Shauna probably brought them. The boy at this time understands that he has violated the princess's order and thinks what to do. He almost cries and understands that, because of him, Shauna is in great danger, and most likely he will fall into eternal sleep. After this, the main character only rises from her seat and states that it is time to visit the emperor. She also says that she will go and let the guy look around the palace, and the young man is then a little surprised. After which, he also rises from his chair and claims that he is very sorry, but the young lady asks if he is sorry that he disobeyed the order. The boy is then shocked and wonders if she will really leave it like this, but Ophelia just smiles and then turns around, and the young man wonders if she is really teasing him like that. But this girl is not the same as he remembers her. And he also doesn't know why he got away with it, but he really believed that he would now fall into eternal sleep. Ute also turns to Shayna and claims that he will be more careful in the future, to which the maid replies to Sir that she is glad that everything worked out. The main character at this time goes to the emperor and sighs and also realizes that she is now alive. The girl also thinks that every word he says makes her feel as if she is already on the edge of her life, but at this rate, stress will drive her to the grave. The girl also hopes that he will forget that Kristen came, and thank God that in the end, they managed to change the subject. At this time, the maid turns to Her Highness and then hands her something. The main character then turns around and looks at her hand, after which she realizes that it is a teddy bear. Well, at that very moment, this bear turns into a giant, and the main character wonders if there is a spell on him, but he has grown to be as tall as her. After which, the young lady asks if the maid sent him too, and she replies that His Majesty is ill, so Lord Kristen Kalman sent her a gift. He also said that he would come to see her later, and really wants to see her, and the main character wonders if he will really come again. Well, the maid then asks what Her Highness will order, but she just says no, and let her say that she is not there, and no matter how many times he comes, she will not see him. A little while later, the young lady is already heading to the bathroom, and also understands what is so special about it. After all terrible times await her, and this guy will only make things worse. And when she becomes empress, she will change her attitude towards luxury and spendings. The girl also cannot believe that she has to change her outfit before every meeting with the emperor, after which His Majesty is informed that Princess Ophelia has arrived and the door opens. The girl understands that this is the emperor, who lives in the inner palace of the sun, and she always hated spending time with him, so she understands that she will quickly put the documents down and leave. Well then, the young lady wonders if he is sleeping and heads to the chest of drawers to put the documents there. However, the man claims that he hears her, and the girl understands that she has never been able to sneak in unnoticed, after which she tells His Majesty that it is Ophelia. The man pulls back the screen and also says what a cruel girl he is, the emperor, and also the father of Ophelia and Eutyce, named Cain's Dain Raidani. The girl understands that the conversation began with an accusation and thinks what she did again, while the man just coughs and tells her to close the door. The main character understands that Eutyce's story must be presented correctly. The man claims that he is sick, but understands who is causing the commotion, and he wants this boy to become emperor, and not her, to which the young lady understands that she knows and has always known. The emperor fell into eternal sleep shortly after the new year, and he wished for Eutyce to inherit the throne, and his attitude towards her remained unchanged until he fell into eternal sleep. So the man asks why she is so heartless and cruel. The girl then asks if he is asking about this, and claims that she is his daughter and grew up watching her sick mother and His Majesty. The man then says what a nasty girl she is, and the young lady understands that now he will pour water on her again, as in life where you pierced her heart with an arrow, and also as in life where she fell into eternal sleep from the heat, and just like in life where she was burned, and the emperor's attitude did not change at all, even when she brought Eutyce and Christens. But if she gets doused, she can leave right away. However, then the main character notices something strange, and when she opens her eyes, she sees that a glass of water is flying at her, but she manages to dodge it. The man at this time only asks if she thinks he is funny, after which he coughs. The young lady understands that she managed to dodge, and the emperor is only interested in whether she will plunge her only brother into eternal sleep. The young lady then claims that he blames only her, although he himself turned away from Cythera, who was originally a servant, and if he had a son from a noble lady, he would have felt so sorry for Utas. The girl pours water into a glass and says that the emperor should be steadfast and strong, the way he wanted to be from the beginning. The girl also tells the man not to worry about Utas. After all, it is she who will fall into eternal sleep at his hands. However, His Majesty only says what stupidity this is, and she must be out of her mind. The girl claims that she is managing his duties, so he should not worry, because everyone is waiting for him to get better. But the man then asks if she said that she will fall into eternal sleep at the hands of the prince, and this is funny. And the young lady claims that he believes or not that the guy will become an emperor when he turns 20, and he will be able to control the aristocrats. After which, the main character leaves the room, and the man only turns to her and claims that he did not allow her to leave. One of the maids then tells the young lady that His Majesty has a bad cough, and the main character then tells her to go and take care of him. After which, the girl also asks if she is his companion, and also understands that His Majesty's voice broke, and she can barely hear him, and she had no expectations that this time he would behave differently, but it is difficult to ignore such an attitude towards herself. So now the young lady claims that she wants the girl to find people who will take care of him, and she also understands that after listening to the same thing so many times, she could stop reacting, but she is still a human being. After which, he claims that the girl will be responsible for carrying out the order with her head, and thinks that she will never fall in love with this old man. At this time, someone is watching this from around the corner, and a little while later, the girl is already in the office, and he claims that this is expected because no one wants to be his teacher. The boy then just slams the book shut, and the main character says that he is not guilty, so let him relax. The young lady also thinks how cowardly these aristocrats are, but they refused because of fear of her, and they should have paid attention to the boy. He would become the master of the year and the emperor of the country, but no one even guesses about it. After which, the girl claims that there is no choice, and she will teach him for some time, to which the young man is surprised, and claims that she probably has a lot of things to do, so she should not waste time on him. However, the main character tells him not to think so, because he is a prince. Well then, the young lady suddenly realizes that such a manner of communication is completely out of Ophelia's style, and he also understands that the distance established between them is felt too well. The girl also thinks what she said, and whether she will teach him, but she understands that she has no choice. Therefore, the young lady claims that if he has no questions for her, he can return to his chambers. Well, the young man agrees. Ophelia knows that she really doesn't like seeing him looking at her like that, but I'm curious. How much worse can their relationship get? The young man heads to his room at this time, after which he remembers how yesterday he was returning alone from his quarters and noticed that the young lady told him to find people who would take care of the emperor. The boy couldn't make out what they were talking about, but then he saw tears in the girl's eyes, so now he claims that he also has a question and is wondering if he can ask it. The main character then thinks about what he is talking about and realizes that the boy was the one who approached her first. After which, she tells him to ask his question, and also thinks about what he wants to ask her, and whether it is about how he will study, or about books, or maybe about the amount of homework. But the young man only wonders why she didn't put him into eternal sleep immediately when he left the tower. Ophelia is surprised by this, after which she asserts that, as she said earlier, it can be used, and he is obliged to do something when he grows up. That is the whole answer. The young man only remains silent after that. And a little while later, the main character is already clutching her pillow and realizes that he has come again, and the Lord must soon get used to the fact that he is being sent away for the same reason. And also, her plan has only just begun to be implemented, and much still needs to be prepared. At this time, someone turns to Milady and claims that it is Emmy, and also asks if she would like to take a bath now. The girl then replies that no, she should let the maid come to her. She also understands that something has changed, and Emmy brought her a new negligee and even changed the mattress because this one is clearly softer. The maid then does so, and then hands the young lady a flower and says that it is for her. The main character then thinks that it is strange and does not understand why the maid smiles like that. And Emmy claims that such a flower can only be obtained in the mountains in the north, and she was also afraid that it would wither by tomorrow, so she brought it now. Ophelia realizes that she has heard about this flower, and it glows brightly at night. The girl also realizes that only aristocrats can get it, and the mountainous region is in the north, and it is also the habitat of various dangerous monsters, and it is an abandoned, desolate, and lifeless land. It would be impossible to deliver the flower from there by regular transport, and the young lady wonders who delivered it. This again, and the maid at this time claims that he sent her, Lord Kristen Kalman Erhard, after which the young lady claims that he must have used magic, and also understands that it is this Kristen again. The maid at this time claims that her peignoir, new mattress, and flower were also sent by him. The young lady then realizes that he also sent a teddy bear, and also wonders what is wrong with these gifts. And now it is clear why the maid smiles like that Emmy at this time claims that, moreover, the Lord said that he would return to see the lady again, and the main character understands that the chance of falling into eternal sleep has not become less, and she even has a headache from this. The girl understands that she has a premonition that she is moving in danger regarding Kristen, and it is too early to do anything, but she cannot allow him to continue to worry her. After which, the main character turns to Emmy and asks if she has commoner clothes. The maid is a little surprised and asks why the mistress needs it. But a little while later, she realizes that this is how her journey with the mistress into the afterlife began. The girl understands that she is the princess's servant, and her mistress is a villain, so she always lives in fear that someone will put her into eternal sleep. Today, they are walking down the street like ordinary people, and judging by the way Lord Erhard is courting Milady. They agreed on something, and today, the princess again decided to run away from the palace to the city. Well, if someone finds out who they really are, then they are finished. The girl also understands that this is the outskirts of the city, and she has never been there. Emmy does not understand how Milady knows about this place. But then she also thinks that suddenly she will stumble, and if she hits her finger, her entire family will be executed. Emmy also thinks what will happen if the lady suddenly gets caught and tears the cape because she already imagines the screams of horror of her relatives. After which, the maid mentally asks Milady to return, but then thinks, what if in these slums, the princess will run into some drunkard? But at that very moment, the girl already imagines the family. After which, the maid turns to her highness and asserts that she cannot go out like that without an escort. Well, her mistress then asks if someone is following them, to which the maid says that suddenly something bad will happen to her. And also, Molly misses return to the palace. Ophelia realizes that her persecution mania has intensified, but then the girl trips over a stone and thinks that the road is very uneven after which the maid only screams and also thinks about her family. The main character thinks that it doesn't matter how much effort was put into encouraging the resumption of economic activity, but here it is unlikely that one will be able to expect profit from such a hole. At this time, the maid only tells Milady to be more careful. Well, the main character then says, Emmy stops screaming and claims that she is the only one putting them at risk, after which the maid wonders if even the lady understands that a princess has no place in the slums. Ophelia realizes that this is a small alley with walls covered with advertisements, and this place must definitely be somewhere there, after which the young lady finally sees him. Well, then he bumps into someone and thinks, what is that hard thing? The girl also starts touching it, and she understands that it smells like fish, but then the young man asks what the matter is, and the main character is a little surprised. She also realizes that this guy is covered in red liquid, and that this turn of events was not part of her plans. Well, then the girl suddenly stumbles and realizes that she is about to fall, but the road is full of nails and broken glass, so she will definitely get hurt. Well, if she falls forward, she will end up in the arms of this man. However, the young man at that very moment grabs her by the collar, and the girl does not fall. After which he lets her go, and the young lady clears her throat. And the maid says anything but that, and asks if Milady is okay. The guy at this time says how much noise she makes, and Emmy thanks him for his help, but he asks who he is and how dare he treat a lady like that. Ophelia then tells the girl to stop, and the guy only claims that the young lady intended to lead her into this alley, and he thinks that her motive is obvious, after which he asks if the maid sees that the coachman is lying there, and she will share his fate. Emmy then asks in shock what he said, and the guy replies that this is where slave traders conduct their transactions, and the yellow ads are an offer to buy. The guy also says how poor the maid is, because her mistress must have added her to the list of slaves for sale. Emma at this time is just shaking and asking how dare he, and the main character understands that the girl will now, as always, burst into tears and ask for help, and also make a fuss. After which the main character turns to Emmy and tells her not to worry, because it's not her fault that they collided. The young man then understands that the girl is calming the maid, and he hasn't met such aristocrats for a long time, but he also thinks what they forgot in such a place, but he probably scared the hell out of them, so they will soon run away from there. But when the young man is about to leave, the main character stops him and asks if he can be a sui maid there for 5 minutes. Emmy then immediately asks what this lady is talking about, and the young man is also surprised, and also asks what she is talking about, but the young lady claims that, as Emmy herself said, she knows this place very well, and she needs to find something, and taking her with him is as dangerous as leaving her there alone. The girl also claims that he would have wasted his time anyway and returned worried about her, so she asks if the guy wouldn't mind staying there for a bit. However, the young man just moves on and asks what the girl is talking about. After all, he doesn't care about the safety of this girl, so let them go home. A little while later, the guy is already knocking on one of the doors, and someone asks who is there. It turns out that it is a boy who is most likely the young man's brother, and he claims that he knew that the boy would return today. The guy then just strokes the boy on the head, and he tells him to stop, but then suddenly falls silent. The boy's older brother asks what it is, and he replies that it's nothing and that he just smells good. The maid, at this time, turns to the young lady and claims that, fortunately, that scoundrel has left, and also invites Milady to return. But the main character pretends not to hear her, and just moves on, after which Emmy asks if the girl hears her, because there are slave traders hanging around there. Ophelia claims that she did say that she has business. The girl understands that the bar with the shining knight in the yellow sign is the meeting place of the mercenary guild, after which the main character offers to tell her in more detail, and she went all this way to buy it. Because she needs this man, Ophelia realizes that this guy's name is Now. He is the most famous mercenary who became a slave of the guild due to poverty. A little while later, the girl looks at the contract and claims that the guy is quite expensive. She also understood that Now is an important character in the novel and in her future plan. At the same moment, the maid brings the mistress tea and cake for afternoon tea. However, the girl tells the woman to take it back, because there will be no tea party today. The woman then replied that she understood, and the main character again turned to the guy and asked where these cheesecakes came from, but he only insisted that there was no point in stirring up the past. And now she is his mistress and the most important person for him. Ophelia claimed that this is a commendable detachment. And the young man only understood that this girl had a familiar smell, after which she took the contract and claimed that, as he himself said, she was now his mistress. So let him answer where these bruises came from and why he was sold to her. Ophelia wondered who had the guts to do this to such an important character in the novel. This guy with a keen eye and an icy voice. His unfriendliness and hostility towards others had been fueled since he joined the mercenaries. He may seem unkind, but he loves his younger brother very much. And no matter what people say, he is the reader's favorite characters. The girl also thought how they could sell her a slave covered from head to toe in bruises. But still he understands that as his new mistress, she will restore the justice that he deserves. And if her slave was beaten for no reason, she will lose her temper. The young man claims that this punishment was chosen for him by his previous owner, Guild Jin, and he became furious when he was told that he was being sold to an aristocrat. The young lady then sits down on the table and just snorts, and then claims that he knew in advance that she was an aristocrat. But the young man claims that it doesn't matter, and from now on, she is his mistress forever. The main character after this only tries to hold back her laughter. And I thought, how could he be so naive? But I still understood that I needed to get down to business. After which, she asked the boy how long he planned to continue kneeling and whether he could untie the knot. The young man immediately tore the rope from his hands, after which the main character came up to him and took off the bandage and also said that he was a good boy. And according to tradition, the blindfold from the eyes of her slave must be removed by the mistress. Then the young man remembered how this girl asked him to stay with the maid for 5 minutes. And in shock, he asks if she is really the one he met yesterday in the alley. The main character then only smiles. And she also approaches him and claims that her name is Ophelia Dane Raidani, and the guy has probably heard this name because she is the crown princess of the empire. And the guy is then shocked and wonders if she is a princess and if this place is a palace. But the main character tells him not to be too surprised. After all, she wants him to become her bodyguard and some kind of mercenary. After which the young man thought, does she really need a mercenary? But the crazy princess is planning an attempt on someone's life, and her target is most likely the prince. After which the young man immediately cries out, does she really want to do this to the prince? And claims that he cannot fulfill her order. However, the girl replies that she did not say to do this. After which she points to herself and states that when the time comes, let him plunge her into eternal sleep in the most painless way, and that is her order. The guy then wondered what she was saying, after which he claimed that he didn't understand what she meant, and the young lady thought that she had prepared in advance for him to resist. But she still claims that she has a plan, and they will cooperate and build everything so that it looks like she did it herself. And after that, the guy will be able to move to the place she has prepared, where he will live until the end of his days. After which the girl also throws jewelry and coins at his feet, to which the young man is surprised. And the main character claims that these decorations and money will become his, after which she understands that this should work because the guy will never refuse such a profitable deal. And thanks to this money, he will be able to live with his brother in comfort until the end of his days. And if he doesn't know how best to use it, she will tell him, and the guy will definitely not reject such an offer. After which she also claims that, of course, his slave contract, but the young man immediately interrupts her and claims that he refuses. He also says that even though he is her slave, he will not carry out this order. And the young lady understands that in the original story, Now hated Ophelia more than anyone else in the world. And even Eudice didn't have such a strong aversion to her. Now was Eudice's right hand and the one who betrayed Ophelia, so she gets goosebumps every time he approaches her. And for her, this guy is a traitor who hates his mistress. And now that she has given the go-ahead for her to enter into eternal sleep, he refuses. The young man at this time claims that he would rather immerse himself in eternal sleep than harm his mistress. And the main character thinks that then, why did he keep secret the fact that he participated in human trafficking with the guild at the instigation of her brother? And also thinks what a jerk this guy is. The young lady then asks if this is not enough, and asks how about a personal castle? And the guy just offers her to simply put him into eternal sleep, after which the young lady throws jewelry at him and then others and only gets angry. And the young man then says, What if the girl wants to bury him under jewelry then? Okay. And he will wait. The girl then thinks, why is it so difficult with him? But once she took a man's life with the help of jewelry. And the girl thinks, does he really not believe in her promises? But it is too early to use his brother in this matter. And the girl thinks, what kind of a bastard is this guy? Because he is not interested in anything in life except his well-being. At this time, someone knocks on the door, and the young lady says not to come in because she said there will be no tea party. Well, then someone apologizes. And the main character understands that this voice is very familiar. The boy at this time claims that Ophelia said that if he has a question, he can come to her at any time. The main character is then a little surprised and also understands that she needs to lure Now to her side. Until he met Eutus, he is stubborn and does not respond to her words, insisting on his own. And anyone would misunderstand if they saw them like that, after which the young lady asserts she hopes the guy will think about her request. But the young man only says that the lady should simply put him into eternal sleep. And the main character thinks how he annoys her, after which she goes out into the corridor to the boy and also wonders what happened. The boy then turns to the princess and claims that he has something to tell her. However, the girl says later, and she asks if he wants to go with her to a festival that will be held in the capital Ute. Asks if there is really a festival going on there now. And the young lady replies that, yes, and it will be interesting. Now is still in the room at this time, sitting near the decorations in bewilderment. And the main character heads to the capital's festival and realizes that Now's brother named Nayu must be somewhere there. He will sell flowers and pickpocket to earn extra money because Now is a slave of the guild. And he also can't come home whenever he wants. And this is a touching story. Therefore, the girl decides to use Naya as a hostage, and Now will have to obey her. The young lady also recalls how the boy claimed that he would not follow orders and harm a member of the imperial family. And she also understands that she tried very hard to do without it, but alas, it won't work, and she must make him obey at any cost. Then the young lady looks at the boy, who looks at everything with interest, and he understands that since he was locked in the tower for a long time, such sensitivity is natural. Then the girl also sees how cotton candy is made and turns to the boy and says that she is tired. And also he will go sit down to rest nearby, and he can look around there. The young man asks, Her Highness, if this is true. However, the girl immediately covers his mouth with cotton candy and tells the young man not to say her title out loud. Otherwise, he will make a fuss and also let him not go far. The girl also ties her bandage around her neck, and he says that it's already getting cold, but the young man only thinks, will she really leave him there? After which, the main character tells the boy to have fun and not worry about anything. And the young man understands that she is unlikely to do this, after which he agrees, but thinks how difficult it is to understand her. The main character at this time begins to look for Naya, and also thinks where he is. Eudes at this time is heading around the city, and he looks around and also realizes that fortunately, Shana gave him some money, and it was a whole 5 shillings, so he's going to have a blast, and now the young man is thinking where to go. At this time, one boy approaches him and asks if he wants to buy flowers. He also asks to buy some because they are cheap, and it is only 5 shillings, and also the young man can give them to someone as a sign of respect. This boy is Now's brother, named Nayu Yuthi, then thinks of these flowers, and a little while later, he already flies up to his sister. The main character is then a little surprised and thinks that he returned quickly, but she hasn't yet managed to find Naya. She also understands that it was a mistake for the guy not to call her princess, but she didn't expect him to call her sister, and the girl asks if he's back yet. But the boy only hands her the flowers and asks her to allow him to give them to her, and also thanks the lady for taking care of him. And she has a lot of things to do, but she is engaged in his training. Therefore, the young man also thinks that the princess is unpredictable, and Shenna always said that this girl is dangerous. But still, he doesn't like to see her tears, and the guy thinks whether he should ask her not to cry anymore. However, then he only claims that he simply bought these flowers and wanted to give them to her. The main character then smells them, and then the young one claims that they smell nice. Ophelia also strokes the boy's head, and he gets embarrassed and understands that he needs to try to say something, and then thanks her for letting him go. Ophelia. He claims that when he returns, he will sit down to study economics, and the young man asks what she is talking about, And the main character claims that if he blamed his scarf on this flower, then he made a big mistake because it cost 400 gold bars. So when he returns, let him sit down with his books. After this, the young man only looks at his neck and realizes that the scarf that the girl gave him is gone, and also does not understand when he managed to lose it. And he wonders if that child really took it. But the man standing next to him offered Nia to let him look at these flowers closer, after which the young man approached Eutis and at that moment took off his scarf. Now the young man only screams that Nayu did it. After all, he bought a flower from him, and he most likely robbed him. The main character then thinks whether this guy bought a flower from Nayu, and thinks that it is excellent, because as the main character, he was in the right place. The boy then claims that if they return for this guy, they will still be able to return the flow, but the main character only thinks, did Yuta really steal from Naya? A little while later, they are already heading there, and the main character asks the boy to wait and offers to go together. The girl also understands that she can't keep up with him, and she came to find Naya, but not in the same way. A little while later, the boy already sees Naya and screams that it is him, after which he menacingly addresses him, and he also tells the guy to return his scarf right now, but then he sees how the young man falls to the floor, after which he asks someone to help him, and behind him stands the same pumped-up guy who was with him before. The main character understands that this thug who is robbing Naya is a bandit, and she met him a couple of times in her past life. He forced Naya to steal and took all the profits from him. Now the man only says what a bad boy he is, and also wonders if he was going to rob him to avoid, after which he also claims that he will teach this guy a lesson himself so that they can go. At this time, Eutis realizes that he is lying, and that the princess gave him the scarf, and the boy asked for help. At this time, the bandit snatches the scarf from the guy's hands, but he does not give it up and claims that it will help him save his brother. The main character then understands that this is what is going on, and because of her brother, Nayu refused to give up the catch and also ran into her while running away from pursuit. The girl also looks at Yuta, and the boy only thinks whether he can stand up for this guy, because the princess is nearby. The main character only turns to him and puts her hand on the boy's shoulder and asks what they will do with this young man. Yuthi turns to Her Highness with some surprise and also states that he thinks stealing is bad. But abandoning a child in trouble is also not good, and he should be saved. The main character then says that the boy is kind and claims that, if this is his wish, then let it be so. After which the main character snaps her fingers and calls the guards. Several knights immediately fly out from around the corner. And Yut is only scared. The girl then tells the knight to make this man beg for mercy, after which a fight breaks out there, and the boy at this time asks if the guards were really following them. The young lady answers that yes, and she was afraid that their presence would be burdensome to him, so she asked everyone to hide until she calls. The main character thinks how simple it all is, after which she turns to the boy and asks if he can become. The girl understands that this young man should be grateful to them, after which she extends her hand to him, and understands that with the help of Yuta, she easily became closer to Nayu. The young lady then smiles, and the boy almost cries, and extends his hand to her and thanks her. A little while later, the boy is already lying near the young lady's knees, and she tells the boy not to worry, because the young man fell asleep and was overtired. The girl also strokes Naya's head and says that she wonders if he is good in himself or if it is only because of his brother. And now Nayu is in her hands. Now, at this time, looks at all this in shock and then becomes completely furious. The main character tells him to calm down and understands that it is time to move on to the next stage, after which the young lady asks whether she will do as she ordered or would prefer to plunge into eternal sleep there with Nayu. Well, after this, the young man just gets down on one knee and claims that since Nayu is with the lady, he cannot help but obey, so he will become her servant and will be on her side for the rest of his life. The main character then realizes in shock that it worked and also claims that he will plunge her into eternal sleep with one blow so that it would be graceful, to which the young man replies that she did not say this last time. The girl claims that they will discuss the details later, and she definitely mentioned a painless end to life, and the guy claims that it will be fulfilled. Ophelia understands that Now is naive and therefore believes everything, after which she suggests going out for now so as not to disturb Nao's sleep. And then they head into the corridor, after which the young lady throws something to the young man, and he immediately grabs it. Well, when he opens his palm, he doesn't look there, but asks what it is. The girl replies that it is a shape-changing ring, and it is a precious object made of magic stones. And also from now on, she will call him Sir Philip, and let him get used to his new identity, and also act thoughtfully from now on. The young man then puts the ring on your finger and asks if he can ask you a question. The girl wonders what kind of question this is, about the guy claiming that he thought a lot when he was alone. So he wonders why a person like her who has everything is so eager to plunge into eternal sleep. The young lady is a little surprised by this question, after which she states that she would like to answer so that he understands, and now addresses him as Philip. At this time, the maid is very nervous, and one of them asks why this had to happen on their shift, because if the princess finds out, then they will be finished and heads will roll. A little while later, the main character claims that from that day on, Niyu will live in the armory. So let Yuthi become friends with him. And there is also someone else she needs to introduce to them, after which another guy enters the room, and the young lady claims that in the future, he will serve you two. And this guy's name is Philip. The young man then claims that his name is Philip, and the main character understands that these Kara are great. After all, he became a completely different person. Eudice wonders if this guy is really going to serve, but even the wind can blow him away. At this time, Philip turns to the prince and claims that no matter what he orders, he will do everything which frightens the young man. And the main character just pokes him in the side and whispers that now he is not a mercenary, but a servant. So let him make a simpler face. After which the young man apologizes and understands that he is not used to it yet. He also claims that he wants to thank the prince and Naya in advance. The main character at this time only smiles and understands that the festival will end and winter will soon come, and after that, the emperor will rest in peace. Then, the plot will begin to come to life in full, and even though the future, in which a bad ending awaits her, cannot be changed, but her end will be terrible to me, and now will plunge her into eternal sleep. The young man at this time asks what happened to Now. It's not like he's staying in the palace because of threats. The young lady claims that he, like him, is hired to be Eudice's partner. And also housing and security are guaranteed, as well as a huge amount of money, thanks to which the brother will not have to work for the rest of his life. The girl claims that she arranged everything better than his older brother could. But Philip then tells the lady not to joke, because Nayu is still a child, and if she harms him, he swears that. However, the girl interrupts him and asks if he will really plunge her into eternal sleep, and it is charming. The guy then asks to take his words seriously. However, when Ophelia steps further, smoke begins to envelop her, and Philip, still worried, turns to Her Highness. And then he closes it and screams, "What kind of smoke is this?" and also whether someone is really trying to kill the princess. The young lady then says no, after which they see bunnies, and she thinks how obvious it is, and such a mischievous and blushing spell could only be used by one person. The maid at this time turns to Her Highness and apologizes, and also claims that they told him that she refuses to accept him in her place. But while she was with the prince, she was at the festival. Then Lord Kristen came and cast a spell on the garden. Philip then asks what they were talking about, and he claims that if they know who is behind this, they should seize him. But the main characters do not answer, that this is not an assassination attempt, but a gift from a guest. After which, the young man asks if they are serious, because such actions are from under Tishka. This is a declaration of war. The young lady only tells him to watch where he steps, but at that very moment, a rabbit flies out from his partner, and he claims that he must grab it. The main character understands that now is right, because Kristen will not give up and will continue to come. He will attract attention with his noisy gifts until he leads to gossip, and maybe that's what he wants. The young lady then looks at the rabbit and thinks how cute he is, after which she brings him closer to her and asks why Kristen continues to come to hers. A little while later, the girl is already in the carriage, and her maid is wondering why the mistress suddenly decided to go to the Earhart estate, because she herself refused to meet with the lord, after which the maid reports that they have arrived. And the lord looks out of the window in shock, then turns around, and the main character wonders if she made a mistake in coming to Kristen. At this time, the servants scream that the princess has arrived and say that she should be invited to the living room as soon as possible. One of them asks where the gentleman is, and the other replies that he is in the shower. And a little while later, the young lady is already sitting on the sofa. But she understands that it looks like she was mistaken, and also thinks what kind of person this guy is. And she can't understand what his goal is, and whether it really is to ignore her now. The girl also understands that if she loses her temper, everything will be even worse, and she thinks who Kristen really is, and that he is her ex-husband, and also the owner of the magic tower, is nonsense. The girl also understands that she knows Prince Eutus very well, but not the princess herself so well, and to take the throne, you will have to raise a rebellion, because this is the only way. At this time, the young man bursts into the room, and he turns to Her Highness. He also comes closer and asks if Ophelia has come to him. The girl then realizes that Kristen's desire for power could have gone unnoticed, only because he hides his intentions, well after which, the young lady becomes a little embarrassed and tells the Lord to wipe himself off, although she thinks that even so, he looks great. The guy at this time is just approaching and claims that as soon as he heard about her arrival, he immediately rushed over, after which he asks what he owes to the visit of such a precious person in the middle of the night. The girl then thinks how awkward she feels, and he himself forced her to come, and she doesn't understand what he's thinking and why it happened this way. The young lady also looks at his grin and understands that they are twisting her as they want, after which she claims that she has a request, but not to him but to Sir Asad. Well, then the girl approaches this young man and he apologizes, and also asks if Milady came to him, and not to Kristen, after which he asks why. The girl replies that she had heard about his outstanding skills in martial arts, and so wanted to ask him to become the prince's mentor. Surprised after this, and also claims that this is a great honor for him, and the magician just kicks one of the swords. At this time, Assad wonders if the girl really came all this way just for this. Kristen also turns to the young lady and says that it would be better for them to talk in the living room because the training room is dangerous and full of sharp swords. The young lady then says that as for the danger she recently threatened her, then she realized that it would be impossible to avoid such situations because you stumble upon them like daggers, and also you can cope with them if. But when young ladies try to lift this sword, then they can. Well, she understands that she thought he was easy, after which the girl claims that if you accept the fact that anything can happen, and you don't lose your vigilance. At this time, the magician helps her with his magic, and the girl understands that this is a very useful thing. The blonde-haired boy says that this is beautifully said, while Keynes claims that he is giving her this blade. And he also suggests that Milady get down to business. Well, then the girl comes out and claims that she has no more business with him, so she asks to forgive her for the late visit. But the magician asks if she really will just leave, and also laughs and claims that the girl fooled him. The young lady after this only sighs and thinks that the way to retreat is open, but the guy is interested in maybe she still has something to say because he is ready to listen to everything. The girl understands that this is tricky, but after what happened, she should have asked such a question. However, he lost everything, and the young lady claims that the principal requires a teacher for general subjects. She also understands that it is worth keeping Kristen with her, after which the young man says that it is good, or he will take up training growth. Such is the desire of the young lady. Ophelia understands that she needs to keep it with her, just like this blade, after which the girl says that it's great, and she wants to say something else. She then turns to Kristen and claims that she can only rely on him in this matter, and the young lady wonders if he could revive this flower and use a preservation spell on it. The guy then asks if this is lavender, and the girl replies that she received it as a gift, and that the flower, although simple, is dear to hers. The guy claims that it sounded sad somehow, and uses magic on the flower. Ophelia realizes that when this guy used magic, a warm light poured out of his hand and brought back good memories. The young man at this time asks to be allowed to say something, and he claims that his opinion is a little different. The main character asks what he is talking about. Well, the guy just stops using magic on the blade, after which the girl can't hold it. The young lady then asks what he is doing, and the magician asks if she knows that there is no way to control a dangerous thing. And the bigger and more valuable the gift, the better Ophelia claims that she will pretend that nothing happened, and let him not send her gifts anymore. But the young man asks why, and she can accept them. After all, she is a princess, and therefore deserves all the best, but nothing compares. Says once again that she has another request, and that he stops drawing attention to the imperial palace. A little while later, she realizes that since then, Kristen has become quiet and she continues to worry. The worst thing is that she doesn't know what goal he's pursuing, and she needs it right now. However, then the girl hears someone clearing their throat and realizes that this is a gathering of wayward, proud aristocrats. That is the Council of the Empire. At this time, one man asks if the lady liked the festival, and since she is rested, it is time to think about state affairs. The girl understands that this is Duke Sarkat. He is Ophelia's maternal uncle and a great man, after which the girl asks what is on the agenda. The man replies that in short, a group of doctors recently visited the slums. They say that they tore the flesh with utensils, similar to canteens, and then sewed it up, saying that it was a cure. The main character wonders if these are doctors, after which she says that it's good, and let there be more of them. Well, the man just bangs on the table and then screams, "What is Milady talking about? Because they need to be exterminated, and it is their duty." The treatment must be provided by the divine power of the priest in the temple, but the main character wonders if this really means anything, that only the rich and well-born will be treated. But instead of listening to this, she needs to think about her answer to Kristen. Meanwhile, at the other end of the palace, the prince is hiding from someone. At this time, the maid comes up to him and asks what he is doing there. And at this time, Nayu calls him. The maid then says that the prince needs to go back because he has a history lesson with Lord Kristini. Yuta was also tormented by a vague feeling. The magician then claims that today is the wisdom of all times and places, and the young man understands that this is Kristen, and he is the person whom the princess sent away many times. His name alone scared her so much that she dropped her utensils, and now he is his teacher. The young man also understands that he needs to find out whether the princess herself appointed him, after which he turns to Sir Assad, who asks what happened. After which the prince approaches the guy and claims that he heard that Lord Kristen is a magician, and asks if it is possible that he brainwashed the princess. The young man with blonde hair at this time claims that his name is Assad Erhard, and Kristen is his younger brother, after which the young man in shock realizes that even his older brother is there, and then it is worth asking her directly. But the guy also understands that they haven't seen each other since the festival. He also looks at Naya, and he understands that since the girl introduced them, does this mean that he is special to her? After which the guy wonders if they are really like brothers. And will they have to compete with each other to find out who is better, and the loser will be eliminated. After which the young man rises from his seat, and the teacher asks if something is wrong. After which the boy simply replies that he is not in the mood, and runs out of the room. A little while later, the maid approaches the young man and says that here he is. Shauna also asks if he really left in the middle of the lesson to avoid having lunch with the princess, and the young man then understands that she definitely said that they would have lunch together, but she will most likely soon offer Naya to join in. The young man also thinks why everything is like this, and does she really consider him her enemy after all this? Shena claims that the gentleman had a table set in the garden, and when he came there, he saw flowers there, which he gave to the lady and asks if these are really them. Well, of course he answers that this is true, and my lady asked Lord Kristen to use a preservation spell on them. After this, Youth is surprised and thinks about the princess, and the girl, at this time, leaves this meeting and says that this is where it can end. Someone then claims that he will ask to bring a simple snack, and they could continue, but the girl replies that no, and the prince is waiting for her. However, when the young lady comes out, her uncle claims that this child is a problem. Ophelia realizes that she must make the right choice for both the direct descendant of the founder and the princess's relative on her mother's side. The Sarkart family, who has great authority, does not care about Utah, but the girl is thinking whether she would prefer to talk to the cunning politician or a dinner with Eudice that will plunge her into eternal sleep in the future. But the dinner definitely tips the scales, so she has to quickly come up with an excuse to leave. At this time, someone else turns to Her Highness and claims that they haven't seen each other for a long time. At this time, the boy is sitting at the table and understands that the princess said that they will always dine together. He also looks at the flowers and realizes that he thought she would throw them away, after which the young man sees someone approach the table and confirms that she has arrived. Well, when he looks in that direction, he only sees Naya. The maid tells His Highness something suddenly happened to the princess, so she asked Nayu to replace her at dinner. At this time, the boy will wish His Highness bon appetite. A little while later, the main character thinks how good it is that she left the Duke, but she still thinks why she was called so far away, and why Eudes is leading you and him so cruelly, since they are not relatives. The girl also remembers that she met Assad Erhard there, and she asked what brought him there. Well then, the young man realized that it was curious why what a prominent political figure was. How the Duke asked to meet a simple guy, and she is afraid that he will become another expendable material for the Duke. After which, she realizes that she needs to chat him up before he says too much about her. Well, when she only addresses the young man, he claims that the girl had come to the Erhard estate for the first time in the middle of the night. Everything the guy says seems to fall like a heavy stone on the shoulders of the young lady, and the Duke only looks at her with suspicion. The main character then asks what brought him here, and the guy replies that he would really like the girl to honor him by showing her how magnificent the big palace is. Then the main character says that they can go. But the Duke asks if there is a need now, to which the girl replies that yes, and now. A little while later, the blonde-haired boy claims that the wind is getting stronger and puts his cape on hers. The girl then realizes that no one in the Erhard family has any political competence, and he wants a love scandal to break out regarding his relationship with the evil princess. The guy at this time notices how people are looking at them and claims that this is the case, and he swears that he did not want to. The girl understands that she is glad that he at least realized his mistake, after which the young man notices a leaf in her hair and says that he will remove it. But the main character only whispers for him to stop, after which the young man becomes even more embarrassed and tells Her Highness that he is terribly guilty. But besides stupid Kristen, he has no relatives from his childhood. He only practiced fencing, and learning etiquette turned out to be an impossible task for him. The young lady then says that he does not need to apologize and just let him take his coat, and they go on. But the guy then says that it's okay and she can keep it for herself. But he also says that the girl looks sad. The main character wonders if it is really that noticeable, but the guy just suggests that she move on. After all, the high priest is waiting for them. The main character at this time understands that even though she tried in every way to distance herself from the Duke, but she thinks that the reason why the high priest wants to meet her is precisely because of him. At this time, the man asks Her Highness if she is really going to just let the doctors get away with it. After which, the young lady understands that this is expected, and the meeting continues. The man at this time says that the young lady herself should personally deal with their arrest. Ophelia then asks if he is talking about those who cut other people's flesh to make a diagnosis, while the young man with blonde hair is pouring tea, after which he hands it to the young lady and asks her to drink. But the girl only thinks about what she should do. The whole priest is on the side of the aristocrats, and if she insults them, then Eudes will eventually deal with her cruelly. Well, since she has now in her hands, then she will play this moment out in her own way. So now the girl claims that she has decided about it. Doctors should be encouraged to do good work, and also thinks that she doesn't care about aristocrats. Surprised after this, and also claims that this campaign will meet with fierce resistance, and also interested in whether he can find out the reason for the decision of the young lady. She answers that she is not obliged to explain anything. Well, in short, no matter what the outcome, she will continue to insist on her own. And he also understands that no matter how hard she tries to please him, her problems will definitely not bother them. So this time, let them curry favor with Eudes. The young lady also claims that people need treatment, so they have a responsibility to provide it. And she thinks that even if she has to be criticized, she will still do it. The man then just smiles and says that it's clear that the girl is a good person. At this time, the main character is in shock, thinking about what they are talking about, and the young man with blonde hair claims that the princess will not let them down. And he always believed that she was very devoted and also good-natured. And just not everyone is given the ability to understand this. The guy also claims that he heard from Nayu about her generous act, and he and the high priest agree with her position regarding doctors. The main character then claims that she is not loyal or good-natured at all, and that she can become good by committing just one good deed, and they are greatly exaggerating. The girl understands that their attempts to push her against the wall are very exhausting, and she feels nothing but anxiety. Well, the blonde at this time tells Milady that the child she saved believes that she is good. At this time, the girl realizes that everything is starting to spin before her eyes, but she thinks what's wrong with that. After all, although Nayu is smart, he is also too naive and thinks that all people are good. And who else would not have the courage to speak ill of her? The young lady also appeals to the high priest, and he asks what kind of tea it is, to which the man replies that it is with herbs, and that it is a gift from one of his guests. He also claims that the young lady looks tired, and the tea should help relieve fatigue. After which the man asks whether he should call her escort, to which the girl replies that there is no need, and that she is fine. A priest to her palace, and she would like to ask him for a favor. The girl also understands that her reflection is in the tea, shows her true emotions that she tries to hide, and then the priest tells Her Highness that they will end here and also suggests that she take a good rest. The girl at this time understands that she remembered the day when she felt so helpless that she only had enough strength for tears, and she screamed how could this happen to her, because she was not guilty of anything. Now the young lady leans to the side and understands that she needs to rest and also collect all the bad memories and throw them into the tower. Above the one where Eudice was locked in a private and high massive tower, the young lady understands that the boy has gone through a lot of pain and suffering, after which in her thoughts she apologizes to him for this, and for the fact that he had to go through so much. She also thinks that perhaps such thoughts will calm her mind and prepare her for the end, which is already approaching. At this time, someone else is standing near the church and watching the girl fall asleep. A little while later, the girl wakes up from the fact that someone is addressing her. It turns out to be a young man with blonde hair, and he claims that it is time to return to the palace. At this time, someone turns to the guy and tells him to stand where he is, and also asks how he dares to ignore his order. And the boys also call this young man Isaac Belhervine. They also cry out that he is a commoner of low birth. Therefore, let him not even hope to leave, after he hit the Duke in the face, who studied at the academy since childhood, and speaks 3 foreign languages. The blonde-haired boy then asks to allow the lady to accompany her home. And then the girl leaves, and the other guys just scream that this guy is pathetic and worthless. A little while later, the main character goes somewhere and realizes that her nerves were on edge, and she also tried to finish the meeting as quickly as possible, but still missed lunch with the prince. The girl also heads to one road and understands that the boys were supposed to go along this path for a walk, and also thinks whether she should look at them. She also thinks that Yutu enjoys spending time with Nayu, and no matter what people say, the author of the novel would agree with that they are on very, very good terms with each other. Well, at that very moment, the young lady sees, as the guy walks away with a very angry expression on his face, a frightened Nayu walks right behind him. The main character then asks in shock what happened, and the prince at this time realizes that the meeting never ended. But the princess said that she would dine with him, after which the young lady approaches these two and asks if they have eaten, yet Yuthi is then a little surprised and understands that the girl has not forgotten her promise, and she made such a journey there to fulfill it. Well, the main character only turns to the prince and asks if he sees. After all, Niyu is a good boy, and the girl asks if he agrees with this. She also says that it is okay if they miss today's lesson, and he also understands that no matter what the reason for Utah's anger, the first thing he needs to do now is calm him down. At this time, the main character asks if they want to have tea with her, after which the 2 young men feel puzzled. Well, the prince only replies that no, and he must finish the homework that the Lord gave him. The young lady then tells him to wait and wonders if this is all because of her, but she kept her distance from him, but it still happened. At this time, Nayu only asks what he should do, and the main character apologizes and asks what he is talking about, after which the boy claims that the prince is in a bad mood, and the young lady asks if it is because of him. At this time, the boy only claims that this is the nature of people, even when his younger brother is still in his mother's belly. The sister can't wait to see him, but as soon as he is born, she begins to be filled with anxiety, and he has been observing such difficult relationships between his sister and brother for quite a long time to come to this conclusion. Ophelia looks at the boy a little surprised, and also thinks whether Yuthi is jealous, but she understands that he is most likely trying to stay alert in order to keep his distance from her. At this time, the boy asks if the princess knows how long the prince waited for her, and he spent the entire dinner looking at his watch with a sad look. After which the young man also claims that he thinks they should talk, because everything has a reason, and the prince's sadness is no exception, or he is afraid that Her Highness will have to figure out for herself what is going on. Their main character wonders if this boy is really only 10 years old. Then, the girl goes somewhere and thinks whether Yuthi is really jealous or whether Nayu got it all wrong. The girl also understands that the very thought of it angers her, and she will do anything just so that everything goes according to her plan. Ophelia also thinks why the principal suddenly began to behave like this and how to understand it. At this time, someone else turns to Milady and states that her meeting will continue after noon, and the girl understands that it is all because of Eudes. And he also messed up her schedule. After which the young lady turns to Lord Chrysans, and he asks if he has cancelled today's classes, to which he replies that Assad will conduct them, and that physical training is also important. The young man then conjures a bouquet and says that it is for a young lady, and the main character wonders if he is really doing this again. The girl also claims that she told him back then not to give her anything else. But the young man then only claims that her refusal broke his heart, and he does not know how else to demonstrate his sincerity to her. The guy also wonders why she is so cold only with him. Well, the young lady at this time only addresses Lord Chrysanian, and she also asks what brought him there, because he constantly complains about her coldness, and therefore will not behave the same way, and will answer her question. The guy after that only looks at her and claims that the matter is that, but he interrupts and asks the lady to come closer to him, to which the girl is only surprised. And the guy claims that he will tell her everything, so let her listen carefully. The main character understands that this looks like a trap, but she still approaches him and claims that she hopes he will not do anything disrespectful towards her. However, the guy at the same moment hugs her and brings her closer to him and asks if he could do something bad to the princess. The young man then claims that he was looking for a meeting with her, and the main character thinks that his eyes have changed, after which the young man claims that he did it because, but at the same moment, he feels a sharp pain. The young lady then asks if he is okay, to which the guy replies that yes, and everything is fine, but squeezes the girl's hand. Ophelia claims that he is hurting her, after which the young man is surprised and apologizes. Also claims that he will tell her everything later, and starts using movement magic. Ophelia understands that this is the first time she sees Kristen in so much pain, and wonders if everything will be okay with him. But he is in good health. But the girl still understands that she doesn't have the slightest idea about what just happened. The young lady also realizes that in the novel Eudes' childhood was like an endless chain of lonely days. The suffering he experienced was as painful as if he had to swallow a block of ice. And the girl understands that the guy really does not crave love and care. But even if he is jealous, as Nayu suggested, then she must not open her heart to him under any circumstances. After which the young lady only takes her hand from him, and the boy sobs, and also turns to Mom. The young lady sees that he still continues to sleep. We still feel bad. A little while later, the boy is already heading through the garden and realizes that today is the perfect weather for a walk. The guy also realizes that last night he had a strange dream that made his day better. And the young man thinks, isn't this amazing, and puts his hand on his heart, and also understands that this place always hurts. But today he felt better, and the boy understands that the lesson will start soon, so it's time to go back. However, when the young man goes around the corner, he sees the main character sleeping there. After which he asks in shock if this is really a princess. He also understands that the girl is not moving, and also wonders if she has fallen into eternal sleep. After which he extends his hand to the girl and thinks that her face is very pale, but she begins to move. After which the young man gets scared and falls to the floor. The main character opens her eyes, and he asks what is going on, but the young man only becomes embarrassed and claims that he thought that she had stopped breathing. The guy also thinks what a fool he is. He shouldn't have just stood there and looked at her. The girl then claims that the lesson will start soon, and if he has any questions, he should ask them to Naya. But the guy then thinks why the girl is talking about him again, and then only talks. That he understood, and he will do so, but still understands that suddenly the pain in his heart returned. Ophelia claims that he doesn't have to do as she said, and he is free to choose. However, when there are friends, the pain subsides. The boy then asks if the girl knows that he is in pain, and the young lady notes that everyone must overcome such feelings in order to grow, and she can't threaten him forever. And of course, he can't do the same to her. Ophelia understands that this is the unchangeable truth, and there is something else that she can't change. After which, the young lady claims that her closest person is only Ute. She also understands that she made such a conclusion, and he says that no matter what people say, he will always be her younger brother. After which, the girl tells him to join, or else he will be late. Does so after this, and also tells the princess to have a good rest. He also understands that he did not expect that she would call him her younger brother and the closest person. After which, the guy also thinks whether it is possible that the princess also suffers from similar pain. A little while later, the magician is already conducting his lesson and claims that if they look at the long history of the empire, they will see that not only loving families were in cahoots, but even sworn enemies agreed to act together. So let them understand that not everything they see is true. At this time, the guy thinks about these words and remembers the princess, and also understands that there is nothing unambiguous in the world. After all, the princess has everything she wants, but she can also be torn apart by pain. Carson claims at this time that the general knowledge test was over, and after the break, they would move on to the main lesson. A little while later, the boy is already gobbling up the sweets, and also understands that he needs to recharge his brain with something sweet. At this time, Carson claims that these are the signature sweets of the empire, and Nayu claims that the palace is full of them, and he is also glad that he can eat so many different things. The magician says that thanks to the princess's rule, everything is calm in the empire. But from their lessons, they know how vast its legal possibilities are, yet sometimes people resist its decisions because they are ahead of their time. Nayu then claims that he thinks the princess is wonderful, and Mac replies that even if someone doesn't like her over time, he will realize that he was wrong. So let the young man not bother his head with this. The prince at this time understands that the young lady is perfect, but he does not understand why. At that moment, Nayu interrupts his thoughts, and he asks why the girl is acting as if she will soon be gone, and whether it is because of stress, because he hasn't figured it out yet. The prince at this time claims that her gaze is always directed somewhere into the distance, after which the two guys are a little surprised. The boy also says that the prince noticed correctly and understands that he spoke to them for the first time. Youth thinks that the girl should turn to her friends when the pain subsides, but the magician claims that if they have finished resting, then he has a surprise test for them. Nayu then asks in shock if it really is again. Well, the man claims that they will cope if they listen to him carefully, after which the boy turns to Lord Crescent. He also asks if the princess has a close friend to whom she could open up. But at that very moment, they notice how the papers start to fly apart, and the magician says that he is her best friend. At this time, the boy is wondering if it is really the sun that is shining like that, but it seems to him that it is the color of the eyes. Christina has changed, and the guy at this time claims that this friend is Isaac Belcheroven. At this time, the priest screams at Isaac and also claims that he told him to stop, after which he sits down on the floor and also cries out that it is good and let the man go and finish him off himself. One of the servants then asks the high priest not to lose his dignity, and Isaac only claims that he is flushed and his voice is about to break, and he has nothing to worry about for the next 10 years, after which the priest says, "What a scoundrel he is." And he cries out, how can he react differently when the priest is dressed like that? Eisen is a priest. After which he claims that today he is leaving his post and will now be a doctor. After which the man tells the guy to take off his mask, and they immediately grab him, but he screams that he said that he would no longer be a priest. A little while later, he is already sitting tied up, and with his mask in his teeth, the priest only asks how he managed to meet such a boy in his old age. After which, he also asks what the guy is going to do for a living when he leaves, to which he replies that he is treating people, and he is also capable. But the man only cries out that from what he sees, there is no individuality in him. The young man replies that he is an adult who can make decisions himself. Well, the priest then claims that their conversation will lead nowhere, and if he falls into eternal sleep, the guy will still leave the temple because he is an unbeliever. But the young man then claims that he is working here for now, and the priest says that he thanks him for that. And he also wants to ask him for a favor before he leaves, and the princess said to send her a priest, so let him go. The guy then replies that he hates the imperial palace, and the priest only tells the boy that he thinks it will be right, because Her Highness is the only one who is on the side of the doctors. And didn't the guy say that he was confident in his abilities? So let him come in and establish a relationship with her. Snorts after this, and the man screams that he should do it just once, because this is the last wish of the old man, who will soon fall into eternal sleep. After which, he also leaves and says that the guy is acting like God knows what, and he has more divine power than anyone else, and he would have made an excellent high priest. At this time, the young man with blonde hair asks if this is the famous priest Isaac, and why he hates the temple so much. The priest then claims that he will tell the guy next time, to which he answers well, and he will be glad to listen. The prince at this time hands over the test and understands that it was a little difficult, but he did as well as he could. And also, in fact, he thinks that it turned out quite well, and he studied hard. And the magician just asked what he read yesterday. At this time, Kristen turns to His Highness, and he immediately responds, and the man claims that he looked at his answers and asks if the guy really understood the expression that not everything you see is true. The young man replies that the teacher explained it, and he thinks he understood, but the man asks if this is true. And did he think well? And he wonders how he thinks, and if there is a connection between his mother's immersion in eternal sleep and the rumors about the princess. The young man answers that he was locked up, so he was thinking about something completely different. And Kristen asks if he was thinking about something else, and if he were in his place, he would think carefully about this. The young man then wonders why the teacher is asking about this at all, and whether this is really part of the test. And he replies that, who knows, because suddenly he will understand something that he had not suspected before. At this time, Nayu just hides behind a textbook and realizes that this is happening again. And also a psychological battle broke out between Eudice and Kristen. The young man then thinks why they don't do this somewhere else. He also understands that life in the Imperial Palace is not so easy, and he will be on guard. A little while later, the young man turns to His Highness and asks if he agrees that the test was very difficult. To which he replies that yes, the boy understands that he asked more respectfully, so he did not answer. The young man also understands that the prince usually ignores him, but he also thinks that he has a sister. The prince, he also has a brother at home, but he plays the role of their parents, who have fallen into eternal sleep, and take care of him, and he also has to work a lot. At this time, the young man also notices someone's gaze on himself and asks if something is wrong. He understands that even the princess's guards are watching him, after which the guys push him, and the boy understands that he is about to burst into tears. But Philip only says that the young man has something in his pocket, after which he takes out this thing and says that it is chocolate and also asks where it came from. At this time, Philip is only moving on, and the young man understands that life in the palace is not as easy as he imagined, and the tension increased when Lord Kristen showed up. This guy is determined, but the princess is not delighted with him, so he can't even breathe again. The guy also thinks that the candy is quite tasty. Well, at this time, someone addresses him, and the young man understands that it is Lord Kristen. In general, she says that the boy can call him teacher, and the young man at this time understands that it's not that he doesn't like him, but he has such an expression on his face as if something is tormenting him. The man then just hits the boy on the head with a textbook and claims that he looked at his answers. So let him just not say that he only learns what can be useful in life. The guy understands that he has been exposed, after which he claims that when he leaves the palace, the most he will have to count is the number of slices of bread. The man then tells the boy to stretch his hands, after which he gives him chocolate, and the young man rejoices. After which, he immediately eats it, and the teacher says that judging by how many sweets he eats, there is more than just bread in his life. The guy looking at his teacher is only scared, and wondering if what he is thinking about is possible. After all, now he sees how the color of the teacher's eyes has changed, after which he immediately runs away and also understands that he was right. A little while later, he is already running and realizes that there is nowhere to hide. The young man also thinks that if he uses the back exit for servants, but at that very moment he bumps into someone and falls to the floor. The main character then asks, "Why is Nayu there?" And the boy asks why she is there, but then screams that it doesn't matter, because such things are happening to Lord Crescent. The young lady then asks what is wrong with him, and the boy replies that he is possessed. After that, they sit down on a bench, and the young man cries out that his neighbor told him that the eyes are the mirror of the soul, and since his eye color has changed, it means he is the devil. The main character claims that such a legend actually does exist, and the boy replies that he didn't believe in it until he personally saw it, and it was scary. He also cries out that only the representatives of God and the priests can expel him, but he has never met them. After which, the young man suddenly understands what is happening now and turns to the princess and apologizes for it, that he bothered her with his speculations about the teacher. The girl replies that the guy knows how to hush up the situation, and this is a good skill. So the young lady asks if he is really 10 years old. She also claims that everything is fine, and she can also control her feelings so she won't act rashly. The young man then asks what she is talking about, and the main character just smiles and asks if he is shirking his studies, after which she tells the boy to treat her more seriously, to which he agrees and also thinks how stupid he is. At this time, the main character claims that she will not insist, but the classes may be useful, after which she puts candy in his hands, and at this time, one of the knights turns to the guy and asks if he is a priest. He replies that yes, and he is from the temple, and the princess asked him to come. The main character at this time tells Nayu to go, and the boy only thinks whether she is really waiting for someone, after which she sees a guy who is angry and asks if the lady will go, and the princess answers that she has business. And he says that since the devil did something to Lord Chrisen, then help might be needed. Surprised after this, and also thinks how to understand this, but still leaves. And she thinks that although my brother told me to interfere in their affairs, her face still expresses calm. And maybe the girl is settling some problem, because she smiles so incliningly that everything will be resolved soon. And he is confident that the princess will be able to cope with everything, and everything will be as she wishes. At this time, the main character asks if the guy is a priest, Isaac Belcrevin. She also claims that she is Princess Ophelia Dayan Raidani. The girl also thanks him for accepting her invitation. She also understands that even in the presence of a famous princess, he holds his head high, and she needs to get to know him better. After which they move on, and the young lady claims that due to the action, the palace has become noisy and he will only need to check their health. The young man then asks if she said anything about the children, and the girl then sighs and understands that even if Kristen is up to something, she has already made a final decision on this, and she has nothing to worry about. And from this priest, she wants to get a stupefying drug. The girl also understands that she has already been plunged into eternal sleep through burning and execution, but she will at least be able to rid herself of pain by using a special drug. And to get it, she will have to win the trust of this priest, and for this she is ready to do anything. So first she will make a good first impression of herself. And the young lady looking at this guy just smiles, putting on a grand show. The girl also understands that he will not leave there until she gets what she needs. At this time, the young man asks if the young lady knows him, to which the girl is a little surprised. And the guy replies that he met her for the first time, and it is strange that she knows his name. The young lady notes that she knows the names of all her guests. And the guy says that, just like the girl, he understands that he is not losing his vigilance. And yet, the young lady remembers how in a past life, the guy claimed that Her Highness shouldn't let us sleep, and the young lady wondered if this was a con again, and also if the guy was bored. The young man then replied that of course not, and that he was the last piece of her conscience, and while he was there, she was obliged to listen to his nagging. Ophelia also understands that if this guy doesn't make the drug on time, he'll get it in the neck from her. Isaac, at this time, asks if this building is the Imperial Palace, and a little while later, he already approaches the children. He also claims that Sir Utah is 136 centimeters tall, weighs 32 kilograms, and shows signs of nutritional deficiencies. Nayu is 133 centimeters tall and weighs 30 kilograms, but his bones are a little weak. And also they are both smaller than their peers. At this time, Eudes realizes that he did not even guess about it, because Nayu is shorter than him, and the boy at this time understands that he is the shortest in the city. Well, the priest then claims that they are in the growth phase, so if they eat well, sleep and exercise, they will grow up soon. The main character is watching all this at this time and understands that everything is going well. And now she just has to ask him to make the drug, after which the young lady turns to Isaac. And she tells him to follow her, because she needs to tell him something personally. The young man then asks what this personally is, after which they leave the room, and the prince realizes that the young lady rarely talks to anyone face to face. But the maid then cries out, "Could it be that he is her secret lover?" The young man is only surprised after that, and also thinks about what they just said. Isaac is near the young lady at this time, and in shock, he asks if she really wants him to prepare poison. The girl replies that it is just an intoxicating drug, and also wonders why he called it poison. The guy then remembers how the priest claimed that Her Highness is the only one who takes the side of the doctors and says that this is how it really is. And they didn't know that poisons were used before the creation of intoxicating drugs. After which the guy turns to Her Highness and claims that he will not help her to plunge others into eternal sleep, and let her choose something from the methods available to her, and also let her burn them or boil them. At this time, one of the maids claims that they say that the princess secret is dating a man from the temple, and rumors have already spread everywhere. Another maid then asks what Emmy says. Preprint note asks, is it really impossible? Because he is probably curious too. The girl also says that someone said that the man was very handsome and had silky hair. Therefore it is probably the priest Isaac because he is from the temple. At this time, Nayu claims that this is all very strange. After all, he had recently seen the princess, and she was going to meet the priest, so the young man asks if she had ever done that. But it was at the back entrance, and the maid immediately screams that she was right. However, the prince then screams for her to stop talking like that, and he wonders why she is gossiping about the princess's personal life, to which the maid understands that the prince is angry. And the boy at this time turns to Philip and tells him to say at least something, after which the young man asks if he really has to do this. And the prince claims that he is always next to the princess, but she replies that he is not interested in her affairs. And regarding marriage, he didn't hear anything from her, but one maid spoke about it quite loudly. Then someone else comes into the room and asks if they are talking about marriage, and also if Her Highness said anything about it. The maid claims that she didn't even notice Lord Christen, and the other claims that it doesn't have to be that way, and that man is there now. The prince at this time is still in shock from the fact that Her Highness will get married, and the man says what interesting topics for conversation they have, after which he claims that they probably just get along well and also asks where the girl is now. He also approaches Philip and asks if he knows where Her Highness went. With her lover Philip then replied that he thought Her Highness and the priest went into the garden. Well, one of the maids asked if he really wanted to stop them. At this time, the man understands that previously, the gossip about her lover existed solely for political reasons. But why did they suddenly start talking about the priest? And did the girl really fall in love with him, after which the guy comes closer and sees these two? At this time, the guy says that this poison is different from those that the aristocrats know about, and he also has no idea how to make it. But the young lady says that she thinks he didn't understand her, and she needs this poison not to plunge into eternal sleep. But at that very moment, the magician runs up to them, and also closes the young lady and asks for forgiveness. The main character is then a little surprised, and also asks why he is there, and also thinks why he has so much anger in his eyes. The guy at this time only says that the young man should obey the order of Her Highness, and if she said to make poison, then let him do so. The main character at this time thinks whether they really know each other, and Kristen just grabs her hand and tells Her Highness that they can go, and if she needs poison, he will prepare it himself. However, the young lady then pulls her hand away, to which the guy is surprised, and the main character does not understand what he is thinking about. At this time, the young man asks what happened, and the main character asks if he knows Isaac, and why he has already taken it upon himself to speak for her. The girl also understands that her old bruise still hurts, and also claims that the guy is a talented person, but this does not give him the right to test her, not unlimited patience. The young man then says no, and he didn't mean it that way, but the young lady understands about the eyes. She is curious whether he has returned in time, not believing that in his past life, his eyes never changed color, and in this life, he suddenly and without reason showed up to her. The change in eye color proves that he has returned in time and decided to get closer to her because he remembers everything. Well, after this, the girl only asserts that she will go to the palace and they can talk another time, to which the priest agrees, and the Lord asks Her Highness to wait and wonders when the next time will come. He also asks why he should wait for the young lady, and the girl understands that if this is a sign of returning in time, then why don't her eyes change color? Or the girl asks if he really wants to hear the answer. A few days later, Philippe already claims that Christian seems to be in despair. Well, the main character asks what's wrong with Togo. After all, it doesn't concern her. Their girlfriend is wondering if the guy thinks that she enjoys talking to him like that. but before they shared everything with each other. The guy also claims that rumors continue to spread, and the main character understands that she was returning to herself. Suddenly, she heard crying and went to look, and she thinks that it was because of this situation that the gossip started. The blonde then asked the girl to talk to him a little, and now the young lady asks what the rumors are, to which the young man replies that they cannot know whether they touched him, but she asks to stay closer to the teacher and not to the priest. And the main character asks why, and what does Isaac have to do with it? After which she also gets up from the table and states that in any case, she does not want to talk to Kristen and let him learn the rules of chess because it is no good. At this time, someone approaches Her Highness and states that he would like to see her. The girl understands that it is Kristen and also thinks how stubborn he is, although she knew about it. The girl also turns to Philip and tells him something, but realizes that the guy has already left. She also thinks that she doesn't want to date Kristen now, because it will ruin her plan, and not because he betrayed her in her first life. And she also doesn't like to see him act as if nothing happened. The guy at this time claims that he came to apologize. The main character then asks if he really wants to apologize to, which he replies that he does. And so he asks to let him in. Then the young man comes and claims that he is ashamed of his actions, and he knows that this may sound strange, but he himself does not understand his feelings. To be honest, he is too arrogant and would like to always be her closest subordinate. Ophelia then asks if he is sure, to which the guy replies that yes, and that's why he came to apologize, and also doesn't understand where such a strong desire comes from, pushing him to help her, and he wants to devote himself entirely to her, while she already has a close subordinate. The young lady then thinks that, actually, no. And what is he talking about? And the guy claims that he will stay where he is now and will not do anything anymore. Therefore, he asks the lady to accept his apology. But the main character realizes that this sounds strange and asks if he really means to say that he will stop trying to get closer to her. The young man replies that he would like to lie now. But no, he won't be able to keep his promise, after which he asks if this makes her angry. The main character then goes into shock and tells the guy that Assad also often scolds him and says that he shouldn't behave like a child. The young lady then realizes that this guy's face reflects embarrassment, and when they first met, he was the best mage in the Empire, and she also considered him too mature for his age, and now the young lady is just trying to hold back her laughter. She also wonders if Assad was scolding Kristen for acting like a child, after which the young lady claims that she is not laughing, and the man understands that it seems that she is relaxed, after which he claims that she is laughing. The young lady at this time understands that she does not know how to overcome this storm of emotions, and also claims that she is curious how the guy scolds the guy, but she is still angry at him. The young man then only sighs and says that no. And since the princess laughs, it means she is no longer angry. The girl also thinks it is possible that he cries every night. At this time, Isaac is sitting on the other side of the bushes, after which he notices Emmy and Philip, and the maid tells him that it is a great job. The main character looking at the guy's face understands that she has just found out what he really is. However, it is worth finishing with sentimentality, after which the girl tells him to keep the line because she is a princess and he is only the prince's mentor. After which the young man claims that he will try, and the young lady claims that then she will go. And it seems that the lore has not been feeling well lately, so let him watch his condition. The guy then bows and thanks the princess for her concern. Then the girl leaves. And the magician at this time turns to the guy and says that he can go out and calls him the princess's lover, after which he tells him not to hide there like a rat. At this time, the young man thinks, is it really true that he was just called a lover and a rat? And also wonders what the man is saying now. A little while later, one of the maids asks if they have heard about this news, and the other one replies that of course they heard, and that it was a brutal battle that was fearlessly waged in the imperial palace for just one single flower. At this time, another asks if they mean that the lord and the priest fought in the rose garden because of Her Majesty, and then someone asks who won, and another maid claims that the battle is between a magician and a priest. Isn't it obvious? After all, the lord using magic elegantly knocked the priest off his feet, as she heard. But another girl claims that everything was a little different, because she possessed the fighting skills received from the Knight Commander, Lord Assad. He knocked Priest Isaac down. Another one asks what difference it makes, what he beat him with. And then they all admire Chris and Philip, at this time turns to the young lady and claims that the teacher is very popular. Well, the main character just thinks that they are walking around spreading rumors and wondering if life really seemed easy to them. And the girl wonders if she should load them even more so that there is no time left even for sleep. At this time, Philip claims that he does not know what the lady is thinking about. However, this is unacceptable, but he wonders where she is heading to, which the girl replies that she will go to the priest to finish that conversation about the intoxicating drug. After which, the young lady goes into the library, and when she sees a guy there, she claims that she thought it was just a rumor. But he still wonders if Lord Kristen really beat him. The young man then asks if he looks like a human, who waves his fists for no reason, and the young lady understands that if she remembers her past life, then it's quite possible. After which, the guy replies that they weren't fighting, and he doesn't waste time on useless things, after which the young lady says that's right, and even if he didn't avoid a fight, he wouldn't have struck first. The guy is thinking about what she is talking about, and the girl says that she knows him well. However, he claims that they had a conversation with that magician. The young man also remembers how the man said that the princess's lover could come out and not hide there like a rat. He also claimed that what the princess was asking to prepare was not poison, and she was not one to beat around the bush. And he doesn't know the reason, but she really wants to get the intoxicating drug, and he also apologizes to him. After which, the guy grabs Isaac by the clothes, and one of the maids in shock asks if they are really fighting over the princess. Kristen claims that he was rude to the princess's guest and asks for forgiveness, after which he shook the guy's hand. And the priest now claims that he is a selfish man, but he defended the princess and apologized for the sake of Her Majesty. And if she really is the villain of the century, as rumors say, then can there be a person who cares about her so much? After which the young man asks if she really wants an intoxicating drug. The girl is then a little surprised, and also claims that all she wants is an intoxicating drug. Well, to be more precise, it is a painkiller, and a drug is needed that will make you feel nothing when you eat or take medication. It is necessary for illegal operations carried out by doctors, but she heard that it is not used in practice because only priests can conduct research, and his mistaken opinion was formed due to problems with those who wanted poison. At this time, the guy also thinks that this woman knows doctors so well, and he knows people who pretend to understand their doctor well, especially the aristocrats of the palace, and they were very good at changing the attitude as it suited them, while the young man still thinks how he can trust this man, after which the young lady just grabs his hand, and also tells the guy to believe the words of the only princess of the empire. After which the young man understands that the princess is the villain of the century, the poisonous spider of the imperial palace. After which the young man asks why she needs painkillers, and the girl only answers that she wants to escape from pain and no one likes to feel it. The guy then, in shock, understood that these are truly eyes that want to get rid of pain, like those who suffer from illness sitting in front of the temple and praying for God's mercy. Such pretense is impossible. The guy at this time claims that he would like to ask if he will fall for her words, but he has enough courage and believe in her. After which, the young man asks to prepare a laboratory and materials for the development of a painkiller. And the main character smiles, after which the young man claims that it is necessary to deliver the mandrake root that exists in the West and is 20 years old, and so on. The main character claims that she will find everything and wonders if it is really necessary. At this time, Philip is watching them and is only angry, and the main character asks if it wasn't a battle with Kristen, then why does his face look so crumpled? The guy then realizes that he has discovered rare medicinal herbs in the garden of the imperial palace, and he stole a lot of imperial property, after which the main character claims that, now that they are in the same boat, he can tell her. At this time, Nayu only addresses Philip and also removes the blanket from him and claims that the clothes are here, and let him take breakfast from his sister Emmy on the way out. The boy also said that he was also late and asked if he could wake him up on time. The young man also claimed that he behaved exactly the same as his brother now, and that he was wrong to be scared of him at first. After which, the young man immediately runs out of the room and claims that he will go first, and Philip understands what he must surely tell the princess today. A little while later, the guy is already approaching her. The main character asks if he really means that she needs to increase security. The guy replies that Her Highness must not have thought about it, and the main character asks what happened to Togo, after which the young man asserts that for her own safety, she should keep a strong man like Kristen near her, and not a weakling like the priest. The young lady then just gets furious and thinks what a klutz the guy is, and for some reason, it seemed to her that he wanted to tie her up with Kristen. But he should at least borrow half the ingenuity of his younger brother, after which the young lady lies down and menacingly addresses Philip, and asks if he remembers the trap from which the rabbits jumped out in the garden. The guy replies that of course he remembers, and also on this occasion, he started a conversation because the girl has not yet caught the one who wants to harm her, and the young lady claims that he too was at the very bottom and must know well, although it looks ridiculous. However, this is large-scale magic that requires special conditions, after which the young lady asks how he thinks and how many people can use her, and he already counts in his mind. And then he finally comes to the realization, and the main character claims that he thought of it too late. After this, the guy in shock asks why she invited such a person to the palace, and the girl replies that she should go to the lab, after which she comes there and asks how Isaac is doing with the lab, and if he is happy. The girl then thinks that she is great, and claims that the additional materials he requested are already there, after which she also asks what the guy is looking for there, and he replies that he is looking for her bodyguard. And also his name seems to be Philip, the young lady, then claims that he is not a bodyguard but a servant. But the guy claims that as soon as Her Highness comes and goes, then he immediately appears and displays unceremonious behavior, as if he wants to kick him out of there, and he is going to take action if he sees him today. The main character then asks what measures to take, after which the guy says that he will throw him out, and the young lady only smiles. After which he claims that she slightly exaggerated that Philip is her guard, and that there is no need for this at all. And the priest at this time says that, although this guy annoys him, it is surprising that he acts with a cap for the sake of Her Highness, and it is not easy to win the order of people, so she did a great job. The young lady then claims that the priest has a very positive outlook on the world, and wonders if he is like the high priest. The young man then claims that this cannot be, and he does not at all think that she has no hidden motives. He just doesn't know why the princess speaks, as if she doesn't deserve anyone's protection. However, many people voluntarily act for the good of the princess, and this is what he sees. Silence between them. And a little while later, the girl returns back, after which she suddenly sees Philip and turns to him, and also states what she thought. Kristen all day, but does he really have any other business with Isaac? The guy answers, no, and he also heard that the lady went to the laboratory and came to accompany her, but in any case, she went alone. The young lady then wonders if there is any danger in the palace. She also asks if he really cares about her safety, and if he has forgotten about their agreement. The guy replies that he must end her life and knows about it, but until that moment, she must be safe. Nayu, who is under the protection of the princess, will be unhappy, and he is ashamed to say it. But for the first time, he saw him so happy in this place, and the princess gives him what he could not give. The main character then understands why the guy is so worried about her, and if she is gone, then her life will be the same as it is now. Well, the young man then turns to her and claims that he heard that it was her order to place him in the same room as Naya. The girl then wonders if the guy has transformed into his real form, but he just gets down on one knee, after which he takes the girl's hand in his and kisses it and thanks her. The guy also claims that he wanted to say these words in her true form without magic, after which the main character says no, and looks at him, after which he says that his clothes. The young man immediately gets up, and also claims that his clothes have become small, so he goes and tidies it up. The young lady then says that it is true, and it is a very sloppy look. The girl also understands that his love for his younger brother has not gone anywhere, and it is good that she settled them together, because she almost neglected the prince's protection, because she was worried about Nayu. But next time, you need to say that. She also has a motive, so there is no need to be so grateful. But then the young lady notices some things, and she sees that a priest is looking out of the window, after which she can wish him good night. But the young lady also thinks that if it were causeless mercy, it would look exactly like this. The young man, being around the corner, looks at the girl, after which he turns around and becomes embarrassed. Shauna at this time washes the master, and claims that recently it seems he has become closer to the princess. The boy claims that she herself said that until he becomes strong, who should please Her Highness? The woman replies that this is true, but let the guy not forget that Ophelia is the enemy who deprived him of his mother. The young man then replies that he did say that he knew, and that he needed to cruelly put her into eternal sleep, and also take revenge for this. But now he also remembers the face of the young lady when he gave her flowers, and thinks what to do. The main character at this time asks someone if he means a wedding. The Duke then claims that it seems that Her Highness has recently become interested in friendship with men, and he's just trying to find someone who's the right age. The young lady then claims that they've been rumored in the palace lately, and she asks if the Duke is there too, but it seems he was busy for several days, and he probably had a hand in this himself, after which the young lady asks if he wants her to get married. The man then wonders if she was the one who provoked all this, and the young lady understands that now the empire is torn into two parts, and these are the main forces serving Her Majesty, as well as the new faction supporting Prince Utah. If the prince had continued to be locked in the tower, such problems would not have arisen, and this illegitimate child could not be released. The young lady asks if the Duke knows that these words are tantamount to treason, and no matter what position he occupies, he cannot speak like that. However, the man only shouts at the young lady, calling her by her full name and surnames. The girl understands that one of the few people who can be forgiven for calling the name Ophelia is Duke Sarkart, after which the young lady says yes, and the man only says that through marriage, one can increase one's power, and also claims that she is the next empress. The girl understands that after plunging into eternal sleep, the empress is in the hands of the emperor. The only one who defended Ophelia was the representative of the princess faction. The man at this time wonders if she would want this passport to take away her empire, and he cannot close his eyes to this, and marriage is a good option for gaining power. The girl understands that soft governance is not in her interests, but nevertheless she should definitely seize this chance. The battle between the princess and prince factions that takes place behind the scenes of the throne is important. The man at this time only hugs the young lady and claims that her downside is that she looks like her mother. And it causes a lot of misunderstandings, but she should find more supporters. The main character then thinks why he suddenly behaves like this. At this point, the man simply takes handcuffs out of his pocket and then chains the young lady to the table. The girl then goes into shock and thinks about what just happened and turns to the Duke and is also interested. Did he really just tie her to the table? After which the man only smiles, and the young lady screams for them to wait a second. And he wonders where they are taking her, but the man only says that this way she will go to the groom's viewing, and it seems she didn't want this, so they will have to send her away by force. A little while later, she is already seated on a chair, and the man tells the girl not to worry about the children. They have prepared a healthy enough partner to produce an heir. The young lady understands that this old man does not know what shame is, and the Duke will never back down. But whoever comes, she will fight, after which someone tells the lady to wait there. But the girl only thinks what kind of bad feeling this is, and she also hopes that it is not a magician. The young lady then states that if it comes to that, then let it be anyone but Lord Chrysany. The young man is behind her at this time and is surprised, and when the young lady turns around, she sees him there. The guy just smiles, and also claims that he too was looking forward to this precious meeting with Her Highness the Princess. A sword at this time, and his friend claims that this is too much. And how can you do the swings 100 times? Because in any case, Teacher Assad is not there. Eudice only tells the guy to stop complaining, and if he doesn't want to, then let him return home, and he asks if at least his parents know that he is there. Nayu understands that the prince is rude to him every day, after which he asks what other parents. After all, there is only a brother, and he is rarely at home, so he asks if this is true, and also understands that it seems that this boy is close to his brother. The young man also thinks about his relationship with the princess, and remembers what he was told. The girl claimed that it was necessary to burn all of his mother's things and portraits, and even clothes and jewelry, because why keep something that was not alive? At this time, he claims that the prince is lucky, because he has been a valuable person since birth, and must have grown up spoiled. And in the alley where he lived, there was a man who painted portraits. And it is amazing that he could paint a portrait from memory, without actually seeing the other person. But His Highness must have many portraits of his mother, after which the boy only claims that he also does not have a portrait. The young man then asks if they aren't lying in his tower, and the prince replies that he is telling the truth, and he doesn't have these portraits. Nayu asks if the tower is an extension of the palace, but it seems he has many family memories there with Her Highness. After which the young man says how good the guy is, and he envies the prince's life. The young man only gets angry after this, but he still lowers his sword and turns to Nai, asking if he said that this guy draws portraits from memory. The boy then asks what this prince is talking about, and he claims that he just said that there was an artist in that alley, to which Niyu replies that yes. After which the prince says that they must go, and the young man asks if he really wants to see the artist. But he has no money, and it seems very expensive. But the prince asks if it is really so impossible. Nayu claims that he doesn't know, and if he steals precious jewelry from the imperial palace, it might work. At this time, someone is sitting on a tree near them and is silent, and the main character is sitting at the table. And she claims that she is fed up because is it really Lord Kristen again? And didn't she warn him recently? The girl claims that she means that she would like to see his face less often, but the guy only tells the princess that yes, and she said something similar. However, the Erhard family are prosperous aristocrats and should be able to refuse Duke Sarkat's offer. The main character is only angry about this, and the guy claims that in fact the marriage proposal came first to the eldest son. But he only became embarrassed and asked if he really should go to see Her Highness the Princess. Because of the stress he got sick, and the guy asks what he had to do because he had to go to him, to which the young lady says that it is clear. But then in shock she thinks, is it possible that the Lord got sick, because then who are the boys training with now? The Lord at this time only gets down on one knee and states that before they start talking, he asks for forgiveness, after which he lifts the hem of the young lady's dress, and the main character becomes a little embarrassed. And the guy just says how rude this is because even if this man is a duke, how can he reforge a princess? Then he breaks this chain, and the young lady realizes that this guy's abilities are truly incredible. But the chain explosion didn't even cause any damage to her. The guy at this time claims that now they can talk more comfortably. But the young lady just goes somewhere and claims that she is grateful to him, but does not intend to marry the Lord. So he asks her to ask. The guy immediately falls and grabs her leg, and also screams at Her Highness that no, he didn't come expecting anything, but offers her at least a cup of tea. The main character then says that the Lord is so clingy and let him drink tea alone, because she needs to check something. The guy then says that she is cruel only towards him, and since that is the case, let him quickly promise her one thing. After which, the young man claims that if a dispute arises about who will be the next emperor, the Erhard family will fully support it. After this, the main character thinks how stupid all this is because the prince is still a child, and now he himself is not eager to become an emperor. However, the forces that follow her act as they please, and selfishly arrange betrayals by setting up the person they themselves have chosen. As a result of their actions, the chosen person was sent to the guillotine just like she was in her past life. The guy at this time claims that he will repeat that he wants to give everything to the princess, and if this is not love, then what is it? So he claims to ask, but the young lady at the same time screams out to Philip and Emmy. The two immediately jump out of the bushes, and the young lady asks what Ute is doing now. Philip replies that he is giving fencing lessons to Lord Asad as usual, but because he is ill, the prince makes 100 swings with his wooden finger sword. The main character then asks if there is anyone around him in this case, and since they are there, let them go and check properly. The magician at this time turns to the princess and asks, what about his question, and then says that, you are the only one, because he is always behind, and she said to go check on the prince, so he is wondering if something happened that could bother her. The girl claims that the kidnapping is urgent, and also understands that even if the guy was recently locked in the tower, the prince remains a prince, and without supervision, he can become easy prey for someone as a man of noble blood. Such a big deal as a kidnapping is unlikely to happen in the palace, but if it is outside the palace, then it is easy to attract him with the help of a break, and if there is not a person desperate enough to pass on Utah, those who will use it at their own discretion. Neiyu, at this time, puts on her cape, and also claims that if you do this, you can easily leave the imperial palace, to which the young man claims that he once went to watch the festival with Her Highness the Princess. Neiyu realizes that he really stole the palace's jewels, and that this is enough for Nao's brother not to work for the rest of his life. And at this time, the prince turns to the boy and asks why he is standing there, after which he suggests going quickly, and he did not lie about that artist. The young man then replies that, of course, and why should he lie? After which he asks the boy to wait, because he will ask the people. Then the boy runs up to one man and says something to him and points to the prince, after which the two of them look at him with a grin, and Ute senses something is wrong. The boy at this time points to one tent, and he tells Mr. Yutu that they should go there, and that this is the place he was talking about. After that, they go into some alley, and the young man understands that even in the tower it was not so dirty, and his friend claims that it looks like the place where he lived, so it was easy to find him. At this time, the prince wonders if the guy really lived in such a place, and he only asks if it looks a little shabby, after which he claims that he will go in first. Ayut tells him to wait, and when he also wants to go into the tent, he realizes that it seems those people are watching them. He has a strange premonition, after which the young man turns to Nai and shouts at him not to go alone. After which the young man goes further and asks where his friend is. But then he is suddenly blinded by some light, and the young man is a little surprised, and at that time the person who is there, he turns to the dear guest and asks if he has come to such a place. The prince then thinks if this man is really an artist, and also claims that he heard that he can draw a portrait, and asks if this is true. The artist only tells the young man to close his eyes, and also to remember the person he misses, and the guy then thinks whether everything will be okay, and then closes his eyes, and also tries to remember his mother. The boy remembers how he ran to her and hugged her, but then he starts to imagine a princess, who looks at his mother with disgust, after which the artist turns to the dear guest and tells him to concentrate and remember his mother. After all, the crystal ball continues to show another person, after which the young man still tries to think about his mother. But he understands that even remembering her only minor moments come to mind, and no matter how hard he tried, instead of memories of his mother, the first thing that comes to mind is the smile of Her Highness, and when the emperor fell ill, it was she who locked him up in the tower. That's why he thinks, why she asked him if he wanted to get out of there. And now the young man understands that he should stop thinking about the princess, because someday he will need to take revenge on her, and now he needs to remember his mother's face. But all he remembers is how someone told him that Lady Sitara herself plunged herself into eternal sleep by drinking poison. At this time, one pumped-up man screams out how much longer we have to wait, and says that this boy should be grabbed right now. The prince then asks Naya in shock what happened, and he only screams what fucking bastards these guys are, and also shouts for the prince to run, because these people are going to kidnap him. The guy at this time asks if they really need him, and the boy claims that they hid behind the tent and grabbed him, and these people are dangerous, so let him run faster. At this time, one man tells Naya that he will take care of him, and the prince then realizes in shock that this is the same man who is exploiting Naya. At this time, someone tells him not to worry, because they are not going to raise their hand on principle, let him just obediently follow them. However, the young man then only lifts the stick and realizes that there are about 4 enemies there, and he also wondered if he could defeat them alone. The young man also understands that no one will save him now, and not only now, but also the people who are for him, after which the image of the princess appears in the ball, and the artist is a little surprised, and one of the bandits screams, "Are the little prince really brave enough to attack him?" But they actually came to escort him. But at that very moment, someone hits this guy from behind, and it turns out to be a priest. The prince then asks in shock if it is really him, and the man only asks if this bandit says that he came to escort the prince. He also thinks whether he shouldn't have hit, after which the prince cries out that no, and thanks him for coming. The guy claims that while sitting at the top of the tree, he saw 2 children walking outside the castle, after which he also tears the sleeve of his clothes, and also claims that it turned out that they were unaccompanied. And he doesn't think that walking alone is right, so he followed them. One of the bandits then throws Naya, and then heads towards Isaac, who has already unwound his fist with clothes, and also claims that this guy should understand the difference in weight categories, and only then start picking fights. He also hits the young man in the face, and he then gets angry, and also hits this guy right in the stomach. Where is his weak spot? At this time, Nayu just throws everything he can at the other bandits and tells them to get out of there. The boy also turns to the gentleman and tells him to pick up the moment and run, but he only screams and asks if the guy should press him alone. Isaac claims that even if they escape, they will still be caught immediately, and there are about 10 of them there. The prince then asks if there are really 10 people there, since he only sees 4, but the guy claims that this is not the issue. He was just thinking how much time it would take to find them, and how easy it would be now was following the tracks at this time. And the main character asks Philip what happened to the prince, but he notes that it seems he went beyond the castle. The main character asks if he can track it down, to which the guy says that if she just orders it, he will definitely bring it back to him. The guy also tells Her Highness that it is safe to stay in the palace, but Noda only states that he will go personally and let Emmy prepare for departure, to say once again that it is safe in the castle and the magician only pats him on the shoulder. Ophelia also understands that Ute is now with Nayu, but it does not seem that the prince was thinking about going outside the castle alone, and she would not like to think so, but still wonders whether Yuta sold now. The girl also wonders whether he is really going to prepare money for life with now. At this time, the magician asks if the lady is worried about the prince, and she replies that the prince of the empire has disappeared, so he should also worry. The guy at this time approaches her closer and whispers to her that he is worried about why such a precious person of the empire is dragging an assassin with her. The young man also claims that he has recently wanted to ask this, and the girl changed his appearance with a magic ring, so he asks what is the reason for keeping this assassin with him. And besides, there is power in that ring. However, Philip at this time interrupts him and cries out that they have reached, and also the trail leads to this place, after which the young man immediately rushes into this tent and cries out to Nai and the prince. The main character then tells the guy to wait and not to act rashly, but he just cries out whether they are okay, and also he came for them, so let them not worry. The prince at this time only cries out to Philip, and also claims that he is very late, after which the man sees the boy with the priest, who claims that Isaac has dealt with everyone terribly. At this time, the guy claims that if you know the theory, you can easily figure everything out, but he says it's easy for someone who has studied the human body, and everyone has a weak point, and it is also enough to simply hit it. At this time, the artist turns to the guy and asks whether to heal his wounds with magic, but he replies that it is not necessary, and he was able to endure because the artist protected the prince, and he is a good magician. And he must have had a hard time because those scoundrels were hiding in his tent. Well, Philip then asks if they were hiding, after which he attacks the artist, and they claim that they were not hiding, but rather they were being hidden. After all, it is impossible to hide in such a narrow tent, even if they could take cover. It is rather absurd that Mac did not notice the existence of such a number of people, and they worked as a team. At this time, the artist asks if he is talking about the team, and this is not possible, after which a blue flame begins to burn. And at this time, the prince thinks whether it has really gotten dark again, like at the beginning when he entered the tent. At this time, the boy also hears the sound of a bell, and Poppy points to the pendant, and also claims that they only accidentally acted together, and that he and they have different goals and methods. After which, the magician also tells the prince that as they agreed, he finished the portrait of his mother, so in return, he must pay. The main character then goes inside the tent and realizes that she definitely saw Philip enter there, but there is no one there, and the girl asks if there is a secret passage there. At this point, the man realizes that a magical barrier has been installed there, after which the main character screams for the knights to comb the area and check if there is a hidden place or a secret passage. However, the magician understands that this is useless, because if they are not magicians, they will not be able to detect the barrier, and the girl could not initially guess about the existence of the barrier. After which the guy imagines how he will claim that this is a magical barrier, and also understands that he must speak out. He also imagines how the princess will say that, as expected, from the best magician in the empire, he is a truly reliable person, and the guy will claim that this is because he is the next owner of the magic tower. And now, the young man tries to hold back his bright smile, after which he tells Her Highness that he wants to say that this is a phenomenon. However, the main character claims that this is a magical barrier, after which the guy is a little surprised, and the girl claims that they immediately followed Philip, but he suddenly disappeared, and there was too little time to physically move to another space. And of course, it could be a trick, but in a situation where so many people can't notice anything, it means that a magical barrier is more suitable. The magician then claims that if she assumed that this was a magical barrier, Then why did she order him to look for a secret passage? But the girl only asks if he knows what kind of noise the soldiers would make if they saw magic for the first time. And only the magician can answer her guess, after which she wonders if this is really a magical barrier. At this time, the young man thinks how the girl even guessed how talented she is. After which, the young man tells Her Highness that she is right, and the main character claims that in this case, there is only one thing that Kristen must do. The artist at this time claims that she made a deal with the prince and is not in league with those bandits. His comrades are also fine, and the artist only smiles, and also claims that he can plunge them into eternal sleep with magic. The young man at this time only cries out what she wants from him, and the artist offers to exchange this portrait for the ring that his servant wears. The guy then thinks whether she is talking about Philip's ring and remembers how he claimed that Philip was wearing a beautiful ring and wondered if it was from his girlfriend, but the guy only claimed that the princess gave it to him, after which the young man claims that this is a gift from Her Highness the Princess for Philip, and also this is not an item that he can give away at his own discretion. But at that very moment, the artist lifts the guy into the air, and he is a little surprised, after which he screams for him to stop, and the artist only says how strange it is that the Prince of Obedient follows Her Highness, and isn't she his sworn enemy? The girl then just smirks and claims that it was fun to look into his memories through the crystal ball, and she also wants to open his head. At this time, the young man screams that this is simply terrible, but at the same moment, the magical barrier dissipates, and it turns out that it is the main character who cuts it with a sword, and the magician helps her, after which the magical barrier is destroyed. And Kristen claims that as she asked, he weakens the barrier and let her just apply more force. Then the main character sees the artist holding a boy in his arms, and there is something black on his face. The main character then asks what he is doing with the prince, and the woman wonders if their relationship shouldn't get worse, and so to bring his mind to order, she put a small bomb in his head, or rather, she planted a gift there. And in any case, a lot of people came, and it would be foolish to resist the elite soldiers of the imperial family, as well as the next owner of the magic tower, so she would simply retreat. At this time, the main character asks if the woman thinks that she will let her go so easily, but she just throws the prince, and the young lady immediately throws her ball, and the young man grabs them. And the artist then says that they will see the bald, beautiful princess again, because soon they will meet again. A little while later, the young lady is already sitting with the guy, and the priest claims that he did not know that there were more magicians like Lord Kristen in the Empire. But nevertheless, he is glad that the prince is saved. The main character at this time only addresses Isaac, and also thanks him too, which the young man is a little surprised, and also thinks why this is suddenly, and says that there is nothing to thank him for. A little while later, the prince already apologizes to Her Highness for secretly leaving the palace, but the girl claims that she already said that everything is fine. She also wonders if this is the first time the guy has gotten close to someone his own age, and it must have been fun, like a dream, since this is the first time he has been deceived. At this time, the young man is just in shock, thinking whether he was deceived, and it seems that the girl still does not know about the portrait of her mother, after which he tells her to listen and asks not to punish Naya too much. The main character then says that they will see what to do, and then tells the boy to join, because his evil and mentors must have given him a lot of homework, to which he agrees. And the young lady then hands him the pendant and claims that it seems to be his, after which the young man is a little surprised. But when he looks in that direction, he realizes that this is a portrait of his mother, and the girl claims that she found it in the artist's tent, and that it is a precious item for him, so he should have it. The boy then only thanks her for not throwing him away, and taking him with her, to which the young lady agrees, and also claims that she is busy, so let him go faster. Her again, and also claims that he is truly very grateful to many people. The ice tells him to stop, and the boy says that he will go. At this time, someone else turns to Her Highness the Princess and asks if I am ashamed, because she could have been more honest with the boy. The message then claims that then the prince would have been even happier, and the main character in shock asks what they forgot there together. She also screams that she is asking for forgiveness, but claims that everything is not so, and the magician thinks that she is really cute. The girl at this time turns to Lord Kristen and tells him to report his observations regarding the prince, after which he agrees, and also claims that the boy seemed full of thoughts, But the flow of magical power inside the body was normal. The priest claims that this also concerns his holy power, since only minor flaws were revealed. The main character then thinks whether it is true that their artist said that she planted a bomb in his head. Kristen at this time understands that the time has come for excellent magic spells, and at least now he must. But the main character at this time asks if in that case it is really mental magic, and the man understands that this is the answer. The girl also claims that it doesn't look like brainwashing, so it could just be hallucinations or an injection. But fortunately, it's only temporary, and mental-type magic is very words. At this time, Kristen only screams to Her Highness that he is actually the best magician there. And why is she untangling everything alone? And also, when did she manage to conduct the research? The girl claims that since she became the princess of the empire, she should at least know this, and she wants to conduct research. So let Isaac give her more magic books. Well, the young man then claims that he does not want to because he thinks that Her Highness needs rest. The main character is only embarrassed after this and turns to Isaac, who claims that the temperature is a little high. Kristen at this time watches these two, and the priest claims that in order to relieve fatigue, you need to drink tea prepared by the priest. And the young lady thinks, is it really the same that they were in the temple? Because if so, then it is not necessary. Kristen tells Her Highness that symptoms such as fatigue can be easily removed with his magic, but the young lady only gets scared and claims that for some reason she feels that it is dangerous. The man claims that this is a form of his passionate feelings towards the princess, and the main character says no and let him display them in a slightly less threatening manner. But when the man brings these balls closer to her, the main character thinks, is it possible that this magic doesn't work on the princess? The two guys are also shocked, and the prince falls asleep under a tree. At the same moment, Nayu addresses him and then bows. Also claims that he heard that His Highness covered for him, so he is very grateful to him. The young man then answers that, no, and it was he who decided to leave the palace. At this time, Nayu is thinking about something, and the guy claims that a lot was reflected in their crystal ball that day. Nayu then only screams for the guy to forgive him for stirring up the prince's past, and maybe it's because of his envy, but the young man then only grabs his head, and Nayu asks if he has pain somewhere. The boy replies that after returning from the artist, he sometimes hears a voice in his head and hears someone say that if the price is her life, then she will give it up. Only let the lady spare Yuta. The guy also thinks why he hears something like this, and the woman at this time claims that this is a request, and the guy understands that even without these voices, he is sufficient. The young man at this time asks if His Highness is really okay, and he will call someone right now. But at the same time, a priest turns to him, and Nayu is then a little excited and says that he is just in time, and a similar principle, somewhere it hurts. And he says that he hears voices. And in his thoughts, he adds that this could be a hallucination or an introduction. And the priest claims that everything will be fine if we judge by the words of the princess. He also claims that this is a special tea prepared with the temple, and it relieves fatigue. The guy also says that he prepared it for His Highness the Prince, but he wants to refuse. But the priest says that he should drink this tea. And then the princess says that she refuses if he doesn't take care of the prince first. The young man is a little surprised after this and asks if the princess is worried about him. But at that very moment, the voice of a woman again sounds in his head, asking Her Highness to at least take Utah. The young man also understands that even without these voices in his head, he already hates the princess very, very much. The priest at this time asks if the gentleman is really crying. The boy wonders why the princess always does things so that he stops hating her, but in the end, he cannot hate Her Highness. The main character at this time slightly burns her tongue with tea, and the artist at this time is very surprised. And she also wonders if the guy dispelled the magic earlier than she thought, and his mixed feelings return to normal. As expected, the prince's follower was responsible for the kidnapping of the prince himself, and even if it was Nayu, it looked like he wanted to sell the prince. But he is Nayu, and even if the boy accidentally exposed the prince to danger, Philip at this time relies on the generosity of Her Highness, and also asks her for a light punishment for Nayu. The main character understands that this guy came there again, and one of the maids immediately hits him with a towel and asks how he dares to go in there when Her Highness is changing her outfit. But the young man only happens with the Greeks, and it would be better if they put him into eternal sleep. The main character then thinks that maybe it's worth making fun of him, after which she asks if he's trying to save his own blood from punishment after he committed such a disgusting sin. The guy then claims that he is still a child, so it is harsh although not, and he screams that he will take the punishment instead of him, and he will give anything and let her just spare Naya. The girl then asks if he is really putting everything on this, after which she takes out her comb and throws it on the floor and tells the guy to clean it. The young man then asks in shock if it is really enough for him to just clean this comb because he will clean it until it shines, but the main character shakes her head. And the guy says that then he can just sweep everything and clean the closet with this comb, after which the girl also shakes her head, smears it again, and the guy asks if she really wants to clean this entire castle, after which the young lady says that she does, and laughs. So the matter with the artist was finished, and now she thinks how calmly. As well as the spell cast on Eudes, various disturbing things happened. The boy then claimed that now he did not feel a headache and did not hear voices, and the girl understood that it all resolved itself. And it was strange that the artist was aiming at the ring that she gave Philip. The main character also thinks why the artist needed this ring, and looks at the young man who is covered in foam and cleaning the entire castle with a comb. The girl understands that he is now on one of the towers, and the guy's brother tells Her Highness that he could fall like that. And the prince says that he, of course, does not know what Philip did wrong, but maybe she will forgive him. The main character understands that she thought she would take pity on him if he pretended to clean normally, but now she thinks what kind of madness he is doing. The prince then tells Her Highness that Philip is his precious friend, and he is afraid that he might get hurt. The main character understands that there was certainly something good in this, and Eudes opened his soul to her more, but the girl thinks that maybe it's because she gave him a portrait of his mother, after which the young lady says that then they can go together and ask him to come down. The girl also thinks that everything is resolved well, and if it continues like this, she can calmly immerse herself in eternal sleep. Well, then someone turns to His Highness, and then the girl sees a priest behind her. He says that he hopes the girl will briefly look into his laboratory, and he will also check the special condition of the princess. But the young lady replies that no, and she will be busy all this time, and now she has business with Philip. The young lady also understands that it is surprising how she herself refused Togo without noticing, and he simply wanted to check his health. The young man at this time claims that the fact that magic does not work on Her Highness is a problem that can be easily solved, but the girl only claims that the children may be worried, so let him not talk about it, and there is nothing special about it. After which the priest says, "Okay, and if Princess Togo wishes, then so be it." Well, after this, the main character only gets embarrassed and understands that after the guy touched her forehead, she began to realize that it was because Isaac had protected Eudes and Naya from the artist, and she was simply worried because she felt indebted to him. But the young man at this time only approaches the young lady again, and the prince then asks why the priest has such a face. The main character then asks what suddenly happened, and the prince then falls, and since he was holding the hand of the young lady, all three of them fall. The main character then whispers what kind of unworthy appearance this is, and the boy apologizes, and also claims that he lost his balance. But Nayu screams that he can't get up because he got tangled in the grass. The young lady also thinks that Isaac is looking right at her, and she is so ashamed, and the guy claims that this is what happens when she avoids him. The young lady then asks him what he is talking about, but the young man just turns around and claims that no matter how uncomfortable it is for her to conduct the examination, he is still a priest, and for the well-being of Her Highness, he will try again and again, so let her not avoid him. After which the young man still looks away and asks her, and Ophelia claims that she was not trying to avoid him, and it just happened that way. At this time, the prince understands that there are people who can speak so directly to the princess, and will he really not even lose his head for this? But he too must become the same kind of person as he is. The young man also wonders if Her Highness has caught a cold, since her hand is so hot. The magician is torturing one of the bandits at this time, and he screams that he will tell him everything he knows about the artist, so he asks for mercy. Kristen asks if the goal is really to get the ring, and the main character at this time thinks about the first student of the high priest, and wonders if he really always had such delicate eyelashes and rosy cheeks and soft skin from which comes a pleasant smell. The young man Harmtime turns to the princess, and he also wonders what she is looking at like that, but the girl thinks that it's a shame because she can't take your eyes off him. The girl also claims that she came because the report on the study of the painkiller was delayed. She also realizes that she needs to stay away from the priest for a while, so she turns around and says that if she's not ready yet, then she's going. Well, the guy then asks if she is already leaving, and also claims that if she needs a report, then but at the same moment, he turns over a couple of bugs, after which something explodes there. The main character is then shocked and wonders what kind of smoke it is, because it hurts her eyes, after which she asks if Isaac is okay. But Isaac just jumps out of the smoke and then grabs the young lady and throws her to the floor. The young man claims that this is a harmful gas formed when the medicines are mixed, so it doesn't last long. You have to wait in this position. The main character then understands that he has a firm hand, and among the sharp smell of gas, she feels the scent of Isaac. But the girl still understands that she needs to calm down, so she will go to another place so as not to feel strange, and her heart does not pound where there will be no priest. After which, the young lady claims that everything is fine, and she needs to go and then runs out of the tower. And the guy watching her thinks why he has been in such a state lately, and he can't even sleep properly, and also makes mistakes out of the blue, after which the young man only sighs and understands that he needs to go to church. The guy also thinks that he needs to pull himself together and also focus on making sure that the drugs don't mix anymore. And the main character at this time runs away, embarrassed. A little while later, she already comes to the temple, and the priest just smiles and says that even at the same time, two people who are difficult to see paid a visit. When the young man sees the princess, he is a little surprised, after which he turns around, puzzled, and is about to leave. But the priest only grabs him by the clothes and then screams that Her Highness has arrived, and where is this boy going to go? And also, has he completely forgotten the rules of etiquette? Well, the main character then says no, and let the high priest leave him, because she came there to drink a cup of tea. She also understands that she will be grateful if Isaac leaves there. A little while later, the girl is already sitting with a cup of tea and claims that there is no one who could prepare the temple's special tea as the high priest. And this is a secret, but to be honest, Isaac's tea turns out too hot, and the man claims that the young lady seems calmer, and he is happy about it. He also asks how their fearless daredevil behaves, and whether he causes problems, to which the girl smiles, and asks what the priest says about Isaac, because he helps them a lot. The young lady also understands that if it weren't for him, Yuthi would have gone through even greater difficulties, and it seems that he is steadily working to advance research in the field of pain relief, and it is good that he is by her side. Although the girl also thinks that it would be good if her heart did not beat so much when she saw him, and why does she have such a strange feeling inside? The priest at this time claims that in fact he was worried when sending him to the palace because he is a very immature child, after which he asks, what if he puts poison in food or sets something on fire? And this makes an old man like him think. The main character then thinks about what he is talking about and turns to the high priest, and also claims that he is exaggerating too much. But the man says that he himself would be glad to know that this is an exaggeration. After all, in the past, this guy was very overly gloomy, but recently, thanks to her, he has become calmer, and before he had an explosive character. However, he thinks that Her Highness should know the girl when she thinks whether she will be told about Isaac's past. But in her past lives, she never asked, and he did not tell her anything, and it was a secret unknown to anyone. At this time, the girl also hears some noise and asks what it is, but the priest remains silent for a while, and he understands that when he was going to tell about Isaac's past, who dared to interfere with this. At this time, the man who is making the noise screams for the high priest to come out there, but then the servants tell the count to stop because this is a temple. The man realizes that this ignoramus is Count Ruel. Toot just hits one of the servants and screams that he made so many donations for the temple, and they treat him so rudely. The priest then says that the count has come again, and the priests will take care of him, after which he suggests going to a quieter place. At this time, the count cries out, "Is there really no priest? If so, then let them call his student." He also screams that this is true, and he conducted an investigation, and also their Isaac is from commoners, and they are all worse than him, and the man also asks how they are not ashamed. The main character looks at all this and claims that it is very provocative for the priests and Isaac, and the priest only asks that Isaac not be in this place, The girl understands that the breath is warmer than the wind, and the priest is more polite than anyone. And the girl wonders if Isaac has received the mercy of the high priest and God's love. Always made such an aggressive expression on his face. The man at this time only pokes him with a stick and screams, "Is he really that low-grade Isaac?" Well, the young man then just turns around and the man screams that this can't be done and asks if he can't handle this. The main character at this time only sighs and also understands that she thought that there would be big problems, but thank God everything went without incident. After this, the other servants turn to the high priest and tell him to somehow calm down Count Ruel. The man then says what scoundrels they are, and he has a guest, but the servants just start crying and screaming that they can't stand it anymore. After all, he comes every day and turns the temple upside down, and they also have things to do, and they can't keep an eye on the count all the time. And they also can't throw the great double out of the gate. The main character understands that it is impossible to have a rest there, or even to start a conversation, after which she wonders if the count has some kind of problem. And the guy replies that it is not that big, and the members of the royal family got into trouble because of the change of seasons, and also any priest can go there and pour holy power on that place. But the man is stubborn and says that he needs to receive treatment from the high priest, after which he also screams that the coniferous temple is not working like that, and the young woman thinks that it is clear to her. And of course, the high priest only treats members of the royal family, and this is just a custom, so this is not a sufficient reason for refusal. Depending on the status, there are priests who can treat different things. This girl understands that if the high priest personally goes for treatment, he will be recorded in the book of conspirators. So it is better to refrain from this. The servant at this time screams that he gave away hundreds of uraniums and is now happy even with Isaac, but he still asks the high priest to do something. The man claims that because Isaac was called to the palace. The young lady at this time only thinks about this guy and his current state, and the high priest claims that it is because Isaac has a very, very dark past. The young lady then says that they have the same turmoil as in the palace, and then she will go. The man then asks if the girl is already leaving, but she has not yet heard about Isaac's very, very dark past. But the girl replies that the high priest should not talk about others behind their backs. One of the servants of the people cries out, "Does she dare to treat the high priest like that?" But the other one claims that this girl was a beautiful lady, like light, and she just said palace. The young man also understands that this is thin, beautiful hair, a delicate aroma, and also the nobility acquired from birth. After which the servants think whether this girl is really the princess of the empire. When the young lady is already heading to her colleague, someone opens the door for her. And he bows and also states that it is an honor for him to meet her in such a place, and nothing can hide the fact that she is a princess. After this, the main character just turns around, gets into the carriage, and drives away. A little while later, she is already standing on top of one of the towers, and also thinks that the Great One has had enough of all such cretins, and it is disgusting because this count is no better than Duke Sarkart. At the place where they accidentally met, he gathered all the priests to say goodbye, and this pressure in order to get permission for treatment from the high priest or from his successor, Isaac. The girl then understands that eating sweets relieves stress, and that is enough as food. Well, then someone claims that this is not enough. And why is the young lady a little surprised? After which she sees a guy, and he tells her to take care of her health and eat according to the recommended daily intake. The main character then looks at the food he is eating and realizes that it seems the guy has exceeded his norm. At this time, the guy says that he ate, and his soul immediately felt better, after which he tells the princess to move away from there a little. The main character then looks at the young man and wonders what he is going to do, but he only claims that since he has eaten, he needs to move. After which the young lady sees this guy flying towards her and screams, "Has he really gone crazy?" The young man then stands on another tower and slightly losing his balance approaches the young lady, after which he presses her against the wall and claims that it is more dangerous than he thought. The main character at this time screams what a fool he is, and let him repeat this to me again, and also he needs to be executed. The young man only smiles after this, and says that nevertheless his jump was cool right up to the point that Her Highness forgot about all her worries for a moment. The main character is only embarrassed by this, and also thinks that the guy shouldn't do this because of her, at the time when he himself was in a bad mood. And at that moment, the girl realized that in fact, everything was vague and maybe somewhere in her soul. But when she sees this guy, her heart beats wildly, and she is overwhelmed with excitement. And the girl wonders if it is because she respects his desire to help others, and the goodwill that she had to lose. The guy at this time claims that his father was a doctor, and he treated exactly the same nobles as Count Ruel. Well, instead, they reported him to the temple and executed him, and it looks like this is what bothered her after visiting the temple. The guy also claims that he feels better after pouring out his soul, and for some reason wants to tell everything to Her Highness. The main character then thinks about the kindness that only he has, and the guy loves this world, so he should not belong to the palace. The young lady also understands that in all his past lives, he wanted to leave the palace and go far away, and the guy claims that he is now ready to listen to her, and whether she will order him to treat the great nobleman, Count Ruel. The young lady notes that even if he hates it, bottom treatment is treatment, and the young lady asks if this is true, but she still claims that he can forget about Count Ruel, and also understands that even if his face is distorted by all the cruelty of this world, she hopes that he at least won't lose this kindness. And the young lady wonders if he would like to heal more people together than he can even imagine. The young man asks what she means by this, and the girl points to one of the old city districts and claims that as a result of a fire in the past, a wasteland was formed there, and she can build a huge building there for treating the sick and let the guy lay the foundation. Surprised after this, and also asks if there will really be a large treatment center on the vacant lot of the old district. The young lady claims that she did say that she would make it correlated. She also understands that then it will be necessary to set up the system and train competent doctors, as well as increase access for commoners. And she will try to make sure that the treatment of diseases does not become exclusively the property of the nobility. After which, the young lady claims that first, it is necessary to explore the area and allocate a budget and also choose a reliable person. And the guy is interested in at what point the lady began to think about this. The main character wonders if he really thinks that she thought about it for 1 or 2 days. And of course, she thought about it from the very beginning. So naturally, it would be absurd to act on a large scale right away. And she wants a small experimental clinic to be opened near the old district. At this time, the young man asks whether in this case he will have to leave the imperial palace. And the girl replies that this is even for the best, because where he will often see patients, the process of creating anesthesia will be accelerated. After which, the guy turns to Her Highness and asks if she really doesn't mind, since he will be leaving the palace, if everything goes as she planned. But the young lady replies that nothing can be done about it, because she did not hope for this from the very beginning. The girl understands that as a person who has become a princess, she must eventually resign herself and do what is required of her. And also, it is necessary to enter into cooperation. The guy at this time understands that there will be trouble, and a little while later, someone screams that the girl wants to build on the old city wasteland. And after all, it was planned to clear the territory and also to build a banquet hall for the nobles. And even if she makes doctors legal, everything will not go as she planned. At this point, the girl gets up from her seat and asks how dare they raise their voices. After which, the aristocrat tells Her Highness that she is of course a high-ranking person, but there is no law about conducting the affairs of the palace in this way. And if she forbids the nobles to speak out, the girl in the movie wonders who said that she forbids, and also says that they should speak one by one, because she will try to convince them. The girl also understands that she will put pressure on them with her logic, after which she still won, and a little while later, she claims that if there is no one else to speak out. However, then someone claps their hands and claims that it is truly commendable that Her Highness cares so much about the lives of ordinary people. And they, her subjects, also hope that she will take care of them. The main character understands that this is Count Ruel, and he still hasn't given up on his request to send the high priest to his home, after which the young lady tells the count that it's fine. And then she will give him a clear answer, after which she says that yes, the high priest will also be able to purify other people besides members of the imperial family. To say something, but the young lady claims that only the commoner comes first, sighs heavily, and also realizes that today's government meeting is over. However, then someone knocks on her room, and the main character asks who is there too, which she hears the answer, that it is Count Ruel's. The girl then wonders if he is still there after this. and when he opens the door, then she sees that the man bows to the floor and asks Her Highness to have mercy on him. The girl then wonders if he really decided to act this way, and also asks the Count if it's not just a cold, and if he will give his consent. Then a priest will visit him with the appropriate holy powers, but the man replies that no, it is not a cold. And he also couldn't tell the truth, so he hid it. A little while later, in the place where there once was a wasteland, someone screams at Priest Isaac that they need more clean cloth, and another one asks where he should put the infected needles. Someone else screams what a disaster this is, because more and more people are arriving, and even if it exceeds the intake limit, it is absurd to send them back. The young man at this time only shouts for the seriously wounded to go there, and the distribution of patients is the most important thing, after which he also asks if the boiled water is ready. After which, he also turns to the scribe and tells him to keep records of everything. One of the people's faces then asks if he doesn't see a priest. If so, then why in the clothes of a doctor? Another guy also claims that the princess legalized doctors. And then the other asks if it's true, and what happened to the villain of the century. Then the other whispers that, who knows, maybe it's time for her to fall into eternal sleep. Isaac then turns to them angrily and claims that the patients are waiting for them, so they should shut their mouths and move their hands faster, after which the two apologize. And the guy just claims that they dare to joke while they are busy up to their necks. At this time, someone runs up to the young man and screams that something bad has happened. Isaac then asks, "How urgent is this patient?" And the other one answers that this is not the issue, and the priests have also arrived. The young man then looks at them, and one of these priests asks if the guy really works as a doctor in a poor area, after which he claims that Isaac is a great man, and maybe he should learn from him. At this time, one of the people asks what is going on, and the priests are so cruel, and the girl asks if they really came there to deal with the doctor, after which he screams that as he thought the legalization of treatment for such doctors turned out to be a lie. At this time, one of them claims that treatment is necessary, and if everything is left as is, the body will begin to rot. But then another asks if he didn't know that the temple is responsible for healing, and even the high priest who is merciful to him won't be able to help this time. After which, one of the priests tells the guy nicely to let all these people go. After all, if the sick gather in such a dirty place, they will get even sicker. But the young man then only takes a bucket of dirty water. Well, at that very moment, another priest hits him on the head, and one of the priests claims that he did say not to give him the floor, after which Isaac is a little surprised. And another priest apologizes, but asks if he really wanted to pour it out on them. He also claims that the story about how he set up a hospital in these slums reached the temple, and if he doesn't mind, they will help those people along with him. The guy then asks if they are really going to help this hospital, and the priest asks if it is really impossible. Another priest then claims that healing is the duty of priests, and that he is helping them. Another guy claims that at first they were also surprised, but then they thought that his actions were correct. And even if he doesn't accept them, they intend to lay a rug there and accept patients separately. At this time, the guy only hears the child crying, after which he claims that the more hands the better, and if they have made a decision, then let them get to work. After which, one of the priests almost glows and tells the guy to provide it to them too. The guy also wonders if Her Highness the Princess sees that the priests who were involved only in treating nobles voluntarily went outside the temple. Now one of them claims that he heard that the creation of this hospital was the idea of the princess, and there are many bad rumors about it. And to be honest, he is looking forward to the moment when His Highness the Prince ascends the throne. At this time, Isaac understands that by the will of Her Highness, the world has become much better, and now he wonders if the first snow has already fallen. But he also understands that it is still too early. At this time, someone turns to Isaac and asks if the bandages are ready. At this time, the guy understands that maybe he imagined it, and also understands that the world is slowly becoming beautiful, and the main character remembers how she asked the Count why he was still struggling with this deep pain. The man then replied that it was not a cold, and that he was seeing something like this for the first time in his life, because this disease is not from this world. The young lady also understands that although the Count's explanation was inaccurate, there are no such symptoms in any historical literature, so the girl thinks whether she should personally go to the Count's residence. Well, the girl understands that she again has a bad feeling, because this is a serious illness. this is a special change that was not in previous regressions. Then the girl also closes her book and thinks that no. And also, simply at that time, it was beyond her interest, and the Count himself wanted to hide that something strange was happening. At this time, someone screams about the Heinrichi continent, and the young lady turns around and sees the prince there along with the teacher. The blonde at this time claims that Nayu is leading in answers, and all the desserts are his, and Yuthi only faces, after which the young lady understands that after all, Sir Assad is suitable to conduct lessons of this format. The girl also thinks if the strangeness is in this special apology, and after that incident with the artist, Kristen asked for a vacation, magic in the near future, but even if so, he is not visible at all. The guy said he was going to do a little research in the magic tower, and he was a capable person, so he should be fine. And even when she told him to leave, he didn't pretend to listen to her, but he still didn't understand what happened this time, and whether he really left so easily after receiving a passionate magical stimulus. At this time, someone addresses Her Highness, and the girl turns around, after which she understands. What is this? Now, the young man then tells Her Highness that she is surprised it seems she is disappointed, but the girl only says that the guy should not try to read what is in her soul, because it is not typical for him, and at least let him give her some time. The guy then asks, what does at least he mean? After which he claims that if she needs him, well, the girl then interrupts him and claims that they will go to the residence of Count Ruel. And also, this is not the shortest distance from the castle to the residence. After all, they will try to use the bridge to get there. And the guy then asks if she is really going to go around. But he also understands that this bridge leads to a vacant lot of the old city intended for a medical complex. The young lady is in the carriage a little while later and claims that in any case, they will send professionals for precise measurements. But there are still things that you won't know if you don't see them in person. Nao then claims that the lady will soon be able to check the free area and asks if they should stop for a while, to which the girl replies no, and let him just drive past slowly, after which the young man says that he understood her, and if she changes her decision, then let her speak, and her Neladai understands that she feels devastated without Isaac and Kristen, and does not even know where they are now, and whether Kristen has returned from the magic tower. Well, now the young lady looks at the flowers and realizes that she thought she imagined it. But since there are no people there, wildflowers are growing. The young lady also thinks that it is good that she came to see them, and that they will have to be disposed of as soon as the construction work begins. And it would also be better to transplant them to a slightly different place. At least one stem and at least one flower would be better to avoid being mercilessly trampled. Well, then the young lady also sees some person in such a place and thinks that his silhouette is a little familiar. The girl also thinks that it is really Kristen. And a little while later, they already arrive at the residence of the Count, after which they get out of the carriage, and the guys claim that he wants to ask Her Highness something and wonders why she personally came to this place. After all, rumors spread faster than the wind, and everyone already knows that the county is seriously ill. The main character then realizes that this guy doesn't know that she has immunity to magic, and she wonders what the connection is between immunity to magic and illness, after which she also ponders whether she should tell this idiot, after which the young lady only claims that it is because such a higher being as she does not get sick. The guy then asks if she is serious or joking, and at that time, the Count meets them and says that she has arrived. The young lady then realizes that he looks darker than usual, and that he is like a different person, after which the girl will persuade the Count that she heard that the symptoms appeared after sunset, so she came to check on his condition. The man then asks if Her Highness is alone, because it seems to him that without the high priest, she cannot do anything. He also turns around and says that if she is so stubborn, then does he have the strength to object to her? And yet he should give her one piece of advice, and it would be better if she left her servant there. The guy then says that this man is strange. Why would he suddenly leave Her Highness alone? But the main character says no, and they will do as the Count said. Nao then asks why, and the girl understands that in the end she will have to explain to him, after which she claims that she will briefly say that the guy should not dare to visit her. The girl understands that she has dug through all the books, but has not found a single case similar to the county's illness, but she thinks that if this is not an illness but magic, then this incident can be explained. Considering the fact that a high-level mat has appeared in the capital, and what is called a disease in the county, it may have symptoms of the disease. But what if magic is involved, and therefore she is not susceptible to magic? She should enter the county alone. Well, if you say it all in one expression, the girl claims that the guy has nayu, and if he doesn't want to leave the boy alone, he should take care of his health. But the young man only cries out that it seems she has completely forgotten, because even though he has turned into such a pitiful, fragile appearance, but he is still a person who carried out the affairs of the Assassin's Guild, and the safety of Her Highness is his duty. However, at that very moment, some strange creature crawls out from underground in front of the Count, asks in shock what it is, because something strange has come out, and the Count just tells the guy to listen to what Her Highness is telling him, because this disease is dangerous, and you can't get close to it, otherwise you'll get infected. The main character then thinks about what a strange smell there is, and she has heard about it but hasn't seen it in real life, after which she also asks the guy to understand and let him think about Nayu. Then the young lady heads to the palace. Well, then the guy hears someone talking to him and asking what he is doing and calling him a coward, and he tells the young man to go into the mansion and join them, but the guy immediately throws off this nastiness. The main character at this time is walking through the mansion and looks up and sees people hanging in the air. At this time, the man tells the girl not to look up because they are also members of their family, but the main character thinks that he could have said it earlier. He also claims that when the sun rises, they become normal, and memories of the previous night become hazy. But the young lady wonders if such a phenomenon has become commonplace. The man claims that even if she becomes the same as them, he will not understand it. At that very moment, this monster heads towards them, after which the man immediately beats it off with a stick. And he also claims that we need to go a little further. But the young lady asks if the Count ever suspected that this could be magic or a curse, to which the man replies, why not? And he called the magician with difficulty to find out. But he was helpless, and also left saying that this could be the priest's domain, since so many people experience such a phenomenon. As a result, the conclusion could be that this is a terrible disease. He also points to one of the rooms, and the young lady understands what it means in it. But at that moment, someone interrupts the young lady, and he says what a nightmare is going on there. It turns out to be the chief priest, and he addresses Her Highness, and also claims that upon hearing the news, he immediately ran there and then offers to go together. The Count then sees the high priest and immediately bows to Her Highness and thanks her for calling the high priest, and now he feels that everything will be fine. But the main character says that they should not rush to conclusions because the situation is difficult, and only she and the high priest will enter this room because it will be problematic if the Count's illness worsens, and the man then claims that he will wait for them downstairs, and also asks them to take care of themselves. At this time, the girl only turns to him and calls him Philip, but the guy then only turns around. And the young lady grabs him by his clothes and asks, didn't she tell him to wait outside? But the man asks what the hell she's talking about, and why pinch an old man like him? But the main character then wonders what kind of antics these are, and he changed his appearance to the high priest, thanks to the ring she gave him. Well, then the young lady suddenly believes that there is no ring on his hand and asks if he really is the high priest. Then, after which the girl says that it can't be, and what method did he use? But at this time, the man only says that Her Highness should not turn around. The main character then thinks what he is talking about, and the man says that under no circumstances should she move, and so quietly, and also let him not let go of her hand, after which the young lady thinks why? And is there really something there? But if you don't say what's there, then it's even scarier. The man at this time only fights off all these monsters, and at the right moment grabs the young lady and also screams that they run away from there. It turns out to be now, after all, and the young lady understands that everything is as she thought, after which they finally stop. And the guy claims that they ran there, and it probably won't follow them, but he still asks what happened. After all, even in the guild, there have never been such situations. Well, and the main character then screams in shock. Didn't she tell him to wait outside? She also tries to shake the guy by the collar, but still screams that it is impossible to even move him. But the young man apologizes, but the girl claims that in fact, he does not regret anything. The guy then claims that he held the ring in his teeth and was afraid that if he put it on his finger, he would immediately be kicked out of there, and it seems that he works in any case if he is near the owner. He also tested, and even clothes could be changed, And the young man asks if it is possible that there was an artifact of such a level, after which he asks where the lady found it, and the girl answers that it is the princess's props. She also knocks on this door and asks if it is locked. But then the main character thinks what kind of feeling of fear is this, and why in such a situation only the count remained sane and asked for help from outside, because the mansion seemed to be trying to invite someone. The guy at this time claims that the door is locked, so he will have to stay there. And the young lady claims that he needs to somehow get out of there, and he is the one who can do it. So let the guy find the carriage outside. But the young man then wonders what Her Highness is talking about, and that they are not allowed to go outside the mansion and must stay inside. The main character then says that she knows, and he says that they should stay in the quarantine zone because of the risk of infection. But in the case of the Count, he was in contact with many people and nothing, so they need to get out of there as soon as possible. However, the guy then only claims that he did say that we need to stay there. The young lady then asks what he is talking about, and the guy just asks if she really thinks that it is for him, and why she makes people repeat it, after which the young lady understands that this is the appearance of now, and she screams for him to let her go and also come to his senses. The girl also understands that he is becoming the same as the people in the mansion, after which the young man offers to return and go to the mansion right now. Well, the main character claims that there is no need to do this, after which she asks him to come to his senses. Well, then the girl also feels someone's magic and wonders if it is that warm light, and she had already felt it somewhere, after which the girl wondered if it was really Kristen. But she also understands that he is not an enemy, and this is the man she saw in the old city wasteland. Then the girl realizes that her consciousness is beginning to fade, and at this time, the guy is whispering something in her ear, after which he kisses her forehead and carries her away, and also grabs Now with him. A little while later, the young lady is already getting up from the bed. She also understands that this is her room, and at that moment, someone turns to Her Highness and asks if she is awake. The main character wonders if this is Emmy's voice, and wonders if she has regressed again and fallen into an eternal sleep there. Highness is okay, and now only wonders if she fell herself. The young lady then realizes that it is that guy, and if it is Philip, then she has not regressed, and also did not think that she would be happy with his impudent voice. The young lady also asks how far he remembers yesterday, and the guy answers that until the moment when he ran with her along the corridor, and he vaguely remembers talking to her about the ring, but since then, everything is like a fog, and he woke up next to the gate, after which the young lady understands that it was not Now who had that strange appearance, and the young man asks if he had been rude. Ophelia replies that she won't blame him, so everything is fine, after which the young man thinks, is she going to blame him? But if so, then it means he definitely did something indecent. The girl also says that it is necessary to call the high priest at the request of the Count, and the guy asks whether she will fulfill the request because the Count has shown a lot of disrespect to Her Highness. The girl replies that the manager should be especially careful in emotional treatment of opponents, and besides, she saw the dangerous situation in the mansion with her own eyes, so there is no reason to think about it, and if possible, she thinks that it would be nice to call the current master of the magic tower. But she also remembers that he disappeared, and then the next master of the magic tower. That is Sir Kristen. At this time, someone runs up to the young lady and says to Her Highness that she should be in good health, but the prince only cries out to Nayu that Her Highness is still tired. At this time, the main character asks what is wrong with them and whether they really heard something, and the boy claims that they say that yesterday the lady returned unconscious. The blonde also follows the two and apologizes, and also claims that he was entrusted to conduct classes instead of Kristen today. The prince at this time claims that he heard, and that the girl took only Philip with her to a dangerous place and let her promise to take better care of herself. And the main character tells the children that they were talking about important things now. Nayu only tells the princess that she should not fall into eternal sleep, but the prince then screams in shock, what is the guy talking about, because she can't just do it like that. The main character is a little surprised after this and says that they are true, but still she falls silent and only smiles puzzledly. The girl then also understands that these are sincere cries of apology in her ears, after which she also remembers how the guy claimed that he swears on everything he has, that he will not forgive Ophelia. The young lady then loses consciousness again and also thinks what she can say to this. A little while later, the girl is already sitting with a thermometer in her mouth, and also claims that she said that nothing special happened. However, the maid asks if the mistress is really saying this after 3 days, that she has been lying in bed. The young lady says that since she has rested, everything should be over. But the maid only claims that the prince was very scared, and he spun around her so much that he almost created a moat. The girl then claims that she caused everyone unnecessary concern about the maid, and claims that work is prohibited today. The young lady then turns to Emmy, but insists that another day off won't cause the county to collapse. And in that case, she will go and make the lady some hot herbal tea. And then the main character thinks that there is a way to escape from there, after which she puts on her hat for a walk. And she claims that she will return soon, and also leaves a note that her destination is the county of Erhard. A little while later, the girl is already approaching the county, and someone turns to her and claims that this outfit completely disguised her. The main character understands that it is Sir Assad, and also claims that he is wearing a very simple outfit. The young man replies that he is used to dressing like this, and is pleased to see Her Highness in a good mood. But before Kristen was recognized as the next owner of the Magic Tower, and received the title of Count, the family was only the owner of a small land on the outskirts. That is why he is used to working with the land, even though he is the eldest son in the family. But the Erhards owe a lot to Kristen, the main character. Then says, what about him? Is it true that his younger brother went to the Magic Tower? The young man then asks what the lady is talking about, and he told him that he was carrying out a secret order from Her Highness. And isn't that so? The main character only gets angry after that. And the guy asks if there are any problems, to which the young lady replies that the problem is that she found out about the Lord's lies towards her. And he told her that he would go to the Magic Tower for research. And she also had a strong suspicion that everything she had gone through in recent days was somehow connected to him. After which, the girl also thanks the young man for the fact that she at least now finds out about this. He claims that he will take her to the palace, to which she replies that it is not necessary, after which the guy, he continues to work on the ground. But after a while, someone approaches him, and he asks if it was really Her Highness, to which the guy only claims that she left. And his brother says that it's good, because he didn't expect her to come there so quickly, and also thanks Assad for not telling about his presence there. The blonde boy claims he doesn't know what his brother is doing there, but he's genuinely worried. Kristen says there's no need for that, and it has nothing to do with him. However, the guy then only deletes his brother and says that he knows that he cannot stop him. Therefore, he will not even try, but he will say only one thing. And no matter what happens, knights with the coat of arms of the Erhard family, they will choose not him but Her Highness, since they are knights of the Empire. The young man then has a smile on his face. He claims that this is what he wanted, but his brother immediately attacks him again. Well, then Kristen says that someone is coming after, which the girl opens the gate and asks if the guy can convey her words to Lord Kristen. The young man then says that of course, and asks what words he will pass on as soon as he sees this guy. The main character then says that she will definitely achieve what she wants, so what if he has something to hide from her? It well until the very end. Well, the young man replies that he will definitely pass it on. And Kristen at this time sends the young lady an air kiss and thinks that she will follow her words. A little while later, the main character is already in the city and understands that before it gets noisy, she needs to quickly return back. Well then, someone in the palace screams out to the whole city that Her Highness has disappeared. But if she damages even one of her nails, the main character at this time understands that it seems she sees Emmy fussing, after which she turns to the driver of the carriage and tells him to wait. And then she states that they will go to the county of Rouen. A little while later, the princess finally arrived at Ruel's residence, after which the girl claims that she was sent a telegram on the way. So the high priest will arrive soon, and during the day, everything is so peaceful. At this time, someone addresses Her Highness the Princess, and the girl thinks that he arrived quickly, and claims that the high priest has arrived. But when the girl sees who it is, she is a little surprised, and says that it is Isaac. The young lady then wonders if he came instead of the high priest, and asks what is going on with the hospital. And the guy replies that thanks to Her Highness, the hospital has more workers. And what's more, it's an insult to say that to an old man whose knees are cracking loudly. Come there. The young lady then realizes that, in her opinion, the guy seems very wet, as if he is gnawing at the guilt. At this time, someone else drives up in a carriage, and the main character is a little surprised. And then the prince, the maid, and Nayu jump out of this carriage. Philip regretfully claims that no matter what happens, these three wanted to follow Her Highness, and as she said, this area was sealed off, after which the young lady says that he is a good man, and if possible, it is necessary to finish this as quickly as possible. The young lady also claims that she will send the news to get help from the magician, and Isaac just smiles, after which Philip realizes that this guy has a lot of pressure. But he has revealed the holy power, and it is so huge that he even feels it. After which the guy also thinks, did Her Highness not notice anything? He is a guy at this time approaches a young lady and claims that he will do everything possible. The main character then asks if this is true and also claims that she is counting on him and understands that it seems that he is confident in himself.